Welcome to the Week 8 edition of the Giant Overreaction. I'm your host, Awthentik. Man, it's the first time we have lost in 28 days. We were smoking that pack for a good 4 weeks there, man, and things for the New York Giants were feeling like they were on the up and up. This loss to the Seattle Seahawks humbles us back down to earth, man. I hope everybody's doing pretty decent, or as decent as you can possibly be doing on this Monday afternoon after the Giants took the loss to the Seahawks 27-13 in a game full of mistakes, a lot of penalties in this one. The Giants are going to fall to 6-2, which sounds pretty good when you think about it. When you got to fall to 6-2, that's not too bad. Seahawks improved to 5-3 on the season. The Giants came into this game as 2.5-point underdogs. The 14-point margin of defeat was the Giants' highest of the year. So Giants have been playing a bunch of close games. We just so happen to be on the losing end of this one. Shout out to everybody that pulled up bright and early in the chat, man, showing a lot of love, especially in a week where we took an L. I know it's very easy to, support content when we get those W's, but when we get those L's, y'all know what it is. So shout out to the whole Giants Nation in the building. A little bit late today, man. I had a long night last night. I was shooting a sizzle reel for some artists around D.C., some legends at that, I might add. The homie Uptown XO. 1/3 of the group Diamond District, and my homie Maserati Black. They were both doing a concert down on U Street. I went out there, man, hung out with the fellas, got some footage, man, and got to kick it with them. That was real cool, getting back out in the scene. Felt like my first time back in the scene, actually, since the pandemic. But let's get some shout-outs, man, to some people in the building bright and early, man, and then we'll get into breaking down the rest of this game, man. We're not going to take a deep dive into this one, but we are going to break down some of these key mistakes. I mean, we know the obvious ones out there, and we're going to go over a couple of overreactions as well. I got 4 of them for y'all on deck today, so just sit tight, man. We'll get to the overreactions here in a second. I want to see what's up with the fam in the chat one time, so shout out to y'all, man. Shout out to JJ Stengel, who was actually at the game, man. That's a tough one to be at. Took the L in Seattle, man. Not a lot of offensive output. That wasn't a good one to be in the stands if you're a New York Giants fan, for sure. And the 12th man was a real thing in Seattle, man. That crowd was extremely loud, so I know you got to see that firsthand in person. He says, hey, even with that loss, everyone there still had a good attitude at the game. Got to meet a lot of good people. Just wish my first game was a win. I had fun, though. Wow, that was your first New York Giants game ever. That's a tough one to be at, man. So at least we know that it's only up and up from here. But shout out to JJ Stengel in the building one time. Y'all know what it is. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets. Geno delivers. Yeah, we're going to get off into that. I know that one is very surprising. We got a couple of overreactions we're going to chop it up about for sure here in a second. Shout out to my day one, no Mets, no Nets, no Jets in the building, representing all of us Giants fans down here in the DMV as well, too. Salute to you, brother. Yo, J. Jean said, hello, darkness, my old friend. I know that's right. I'm a little bit more used to this. We had about 5 seasons there with the New York Giants, man, with a bunch of L's, bunch of losses. So, I'm definitely used to this. I can handle a couple of losses from the Giants. This being our first major one of the season. The Cowboys one being the other one. But shout out to Jay Jean in the building. Texas boy, man, been showing up proper. Y'all got that big win over there in Dallas yesterday. I was clowning on Twitter a little bit, talking about how Cowboys fans and Philadelphia Eagles fans are just having the time of their lives. And I think y'all was partying just a little bit too hard in that 1 o'clock window. 4 o'clock window comes along. The Washington Commanders get the W as well. I know the Beard is extremely excited about that. And our New York Giants are the only team in the NFC East to lose this week. That's a tough one. But shout out to you, Texas boy. Big win for y'all Cowboys. Tony Pollard definitely looked like a guy in that game. And Dak Prescott seems to be back, man. So shout out to y'all one time. Gregory's in the building one time. He says, let's do the time warp again. I know, right? We just took that time machine right back to 2020 vibes again. New York Giants take that L 27-13 to the Seattle Seahawks one time. Shout out to old man Rob in the building one time. What's going on, fam? Last week's winner, I believe, maybe 2 weeks now. I could be, losing my memory here on that one a little bit. But shout out to old man Rob in the building. St. Zappa's in the building one time. My man Waterfly Day One is in the building one time. ENA We Got Time is in the building one time. Paul Wall, baby, the people's champ, is in the building. 6-2 is great considering our injuries and lack of depth at some positions. MYG still looking good for the second half. I like the way you worded this. I've been seeing a lot of people that have kind of just been saying, whatever, we can afford to lose a game. We were sitting at, 6-1 before this game. I think this is probably the best way to say it. Definitely considering these injuries that we've been dealing with, the Giants have overperformed a little bit there. kind of brings us back down to earth there, but 6-2 is pretty good. I'm not too mad at that on a Monday morning here, while the rest of the NFC East gets to celebrate Victory Monday. The New York Giants sitting in the dumps right now, but 6-2 is not too terrible. But shout out to Paul Wall one time in the building. The Beard is in the building. Jeffrey's in the building. Shout out to Jeffrey. Says we will be okay. I tweeted that out actually right when the game was over. I said we gonna be all right. A little bit of a nod to Kendrick Lamar. That offense just really never quite got going. This was one of those games where we kind of expected it to turn around in the second half, and it just didn't do so. But, I'm okay on a Monday. It's not too bad. This ain't the end of the world. I think the Giants needed a loss somewhere along the lines here. I've been talking about us trying to make this run into the playoffs, and you're going to need a loss to humble you down a little bit and be able to look yourself in the mirror and assess yourself. You can't be just riding high. I know a lot of people who, are in support of the New York Giants wanted to pull a lot of stats last week that, to me, I'm going to go over this a little bit later here, but to me were a little bit of a reach for some of these stats, thinking that some of our players might be in the top caliber of players in the league right now, whereas this kind of a loss is going to bring us back down to earth, and I think it's very necessary. At this point in the season, too. It would have been nice had it came maybe after the bye, but, getting a loss like this before the bye, I think we can go into the bye week here and kind of just prepare ourselves, get back on the right foot, and then hopefully come back out against those Texans and get a win. I think the Texans is a really good matchup, too, coming out after the bye as well. But shout out to Jeffrey one time in the building. Steven Arce is in the building one time. Shout out to Steve when we was chopping it up on Instagram a little bit about some of the key reasons for this loss. Who else we got in the building? Kareem Yee is in the building. Day One in the building. Roman is in the building. Shout out to Roman. Bubs is in the building. Sean G in the building. Salute to all of y'all. Lou Mateo is in the building. Yo, the famous yo from the homie Mr. Mini Guy. Shout out to Mr. Mini Guy in the building. Jared Williams says this game was on the 2 fumbles. I'm going to get into that a little bit. I'll kind of let the cat out the bag a little bit. Yeah, there was the 2 fumbles, but you got to look at it like this, too. Those kind of things are going to happen at some point in the season in games, especially with this kind of a roster. Richie James has been a guy who has tried to step up, in the absence of some of the other wide receivers like Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney now, Kenny Galladay, and others. We have been a very injury-riddled wide receiver department throughout the whole entire year. I'm one who was actually asking for Richie James to get some more snaps on the offensive side of the ball, which he didn't get in this game. He was only on the field for 4 snaps. The 2 fumbles are extreme. I won't downgrade that at all. They are extreme. But I don't put the game, I don't put the loss on the 2 fumbles. The 2 fumbles definitely were an issue, but we'll get to that. I definitely got that in one of the overreactions. But I just think that, in all 3 phases of the game, the New York Giants really didn't show up. The defense probably showed up the most in this game, but offensively, this was a pathetic performance by the New York Giants. And we're going to get off into some of the key stats, some key notes in a second here. Hang tight, Jared Williams. Definitely appreciate you pulling up on this Monday afternoon, rocking out with us, man. What else we got over here? We got Ben Dawson in the building. Shout out to Ben Dawson. Oscar Unrated is in the building. Let me see. He says, let's not overreact. This is funny. This is like Bandersnatch. This is what I've been saying on Twitter lately when I see 2 back-to-back comments that kind of play the polar opposite. You got Jared Williams saying the game was on the 2 fumbles, and then you got Oscar saying, let's not overreact to Richie James. He needs to be taken off punt returns, but he's never in his career fumbled as a receiver, and we need him for depth. I think he did fumble actually earlier this season for us one time at the receiver position. I know he fumbled one of his punts against the Green Bay Packers, but it went out of bounds. I think he has another fumble. Maybe it was a drop. I could be wrong, and I think Oscar's actually right. I think it was a drop. But shout out to y'all, man. Early afternoon here on a Monday afternoon here. Giants take that L, man, 27-13. The more and more I say it, I'm just like, wow, can we call that kind of a blowout in a way? We're going to get to that. It was a close game in the 4th quarter, but if the Seattle Seahawks didn't take care of business, that definitely could have been a game a little bit farther out of reach for the Giants. Had there not been a couple of drops, couple of missed opportunities from the Seattle Seahawks. Shout out to Lucas one time in the building, man. Day one of the biggest supporters of this channel, man. Appreciate you pulling up, man. Says, what's up to the AATB fam? And let me just scroll down here so we can get this show on the road here. We already about a good 10 minutes in. Shout out to all of y'all in the chat. You know what it is. 84 is in the building. I see y'all, man. I see y'all. Waterfly in the building. Sean G. Bookend Tackles is in the building one time. Who else we got that I haven't seen here in the building? Shout out to ENA. We got time one time for that $4.99 super chat, man. Definitely appreciate that. He says, next 24 hours, I'm on constant Claypool watch Anything after that, I'm going to start heavy scouting college wide receivers. I know that's right, man. We definitely got overreaction talking about the wide receiver department as well. Make sure y'all stay tight here, man. We're going to get into this in a second. I got to show love and show out to the fam one time. The Giants Nation is in the building early here. You know what it is, man. Let me see who else we got. Who else we got? I might have missed. Tom's World is in the building. Shout out to Tom's World one time. He said a fourth for Marshall Jr. He's talking about Terrence Marshall from the Carolina Panthers. I like him, but I don't think he's a game breaker, but I do like him. A fourth for him, I'm probably not doing it. I'm going to keep it real with you one time, but definitely appreciate you pulling up Tom's World. You know what it is, man. Couldn't do this without all the support from all of y'all. Zeke Anderson in the building. What's poppin', fam? Hope all is well. Appreciate that $5 super chat, man. He says, I was there. That game was ours for the taking. Turnovers and bad quarterback play was major. You the first person I've seen to point that out. A lot of people kind of tiptoeing around the quarterback position this morning from what I'm seeing on social media, from some of the national media outlets. But I think that's a good point. You know, granted, the wide receiver core has been banged up, and they you know, we're dealing with a bunch of practice squad guys and whatnot. But we're here in week 8, entering week 9. I think we got to stop using that as an excuse. So, you know, I'm right there with you. There was some bad quarterback play in here, some overthrows. I don't care who's out there. You can have me out there playing wide receiver, but when you got overthrows like what we saw from Daniel Jones on some key opportunities there, yeah, you got to call it out. It wasn't a dismal, terrible performance from Daniel Jones, but it definitely wasn't his best one. I think it was probably one of his worst performances of the year. So shout out to Zeke Anderson one time. And he says, man, I'm on the plane back from Seattle. I'm still tight. I feel you, man. I hope this show can help you out a little bit with your travels, man. And safe travels back to wherever you're going. I would imagine it might be New York, but, you know, just, you know, shooting it, you know, not knowing necessarily. You could be going anywhere. You could be coming back to D.C. for all I know. But shout out to Zeke Anderson one time, man. Hope you have some safe travels on that way back. That's going to be that's some tough travels when you got to take that L. I know when you planning those kind of trips, they seem, you know, like everything's going to be peaches and cream. Shout out to 112. And then you get that loss, and it's like, man, why did I even do this? You start to second guess and have a bunch of regrets. But shout out to Zeke Anderson, man. Definitely appreciate you pulling up one time. Let me see. So, okay, we all caught up on the chat, man. Shout out to real people one time in the building. I can't forget about you, fam. All right, let's get off into this game a little bit here, man. Talk about this matchup. This was a tough one, man. I thought the Seahawks was a winnable game. I thought they were a team that we could definitely beat, man. But let's talk about this one, man. The Giants at the Seahawks.
Giants are on the board with 11:16 to go here in the third.
All right, man. So the New York Giants go to Seattle, take that major L. Let's talk about this offense right off the bat before we get off into some of these overreactions one time. For me, the offense was just pitiful all day. Now, I didn't want to rag on Daniel Jones and talk about his performance necessarily because we know that he's strapped out there with talent. He's not got a lot of talent around him. But offensively, as a unit, I will attack the whole entire unit. The unit was god-awful, okay? So this is the first game for the New York Giants this season that was decided by one or more score, and I think a lot of that has to do with this offense, minus what we're going to talk about with Richie James here in a second. The Giants gained 225 yards in this game. That's the lowest total since they finished with 177 versus the Washington Commanders way back last season on January 9th. The previous low this season came against the Baltimore Ravens, which was 238. After that game, I brought up a clip on the overreaction show that had Rex Ryan speaking on how we were kind of lucky to kind of sneak out of that game, and Chris Canty was also involved in that conversation as well. And they were talking about how we pretty much got lucky against the Ravens because the Ravens dominated us in that game. The Giants somehow found a way in the fourth quarter to win that game, especially on the back of this defense, making some big plays down the stretch, stopping Lamar Jackson and those Ravens. But now we're starting to see a couple of weeks here. When you look at the Jaguars game, ATN, he completely destroyed us on the ground. But offensively, another game outside of that first drive that was not that great. Now, the Giants trailed in the fourth quarter for the fourth consecutive game. I'm on record on Twitter saying that this way of winning is not a viable option for the New York Giants. It's not a way to sustain victories throughout an entire season. I do think that we are very fortunate now to be sitting at 6-2, but entering this game to be sitting at 6-1 with an offense that has struggled, one, to put touchdowns on the board, haven't had a lot of red zone opportunities this season. It's a little bit more of the same when it comes to Daniel Jones and this offense being able to put up a lot of points. Now, we do know that we strapped a wide receiver. I'm not going to continue to keep using that as a a scapegoat for the New York Giants. We do have talent out there. We know in this game we were without Evan Neal, we were without Daniel Bellinger, but we've been predicated on the whole statement of next man up this entire season. So I expected nonetheless in this game. But the Giants offense just never really quite got it going this whole entire game. The Giants' 13 points are the fewest since their defeat to the Washington Commanders in the 2021 season finale. So a lot of this is going to date back to that game. Now, after the win, Tyler Lockett, he said, "It's amazing what we can accomplish when nobody gets the credit." Now, this is something that I think, now, when I first heard him say this comment, and this was on the Get Up actually this morning, I was kind of like, why'd they bring this up? You know, and this was about Russell Wilson, obviously. Tyler Lockett taking a shot at Russell Wilson, you know, saying, hey, this was a guy pretty much that wanted to get the credit every time the Seattle Seahawks won. And now that you got a guy who's, you know, knows how to eat some humble pie in Geno Smith, you know, now they're having a guy at quarterback who's not necessarily concerned about taking the credits for the wins. I think that the Giants fan base kind of needs to take a little bit of this quote from Tyler Lockett and apply it to what we are dealing with the New York Giants. We don't always got to fault people, and we don't always got to praise people when this is a team effort that it seems to be for the New York Giants and the reason why they are at 6-2. Now, for me, I want to see a lot more out of this offense. I've been trying to tame my expectations with the amount of wins that the New York Giants have been able to get. I'm trying to tame my expectations of the output of what the offense is putting out there. But at the end of the day, man, this is not authentic football. Like, for me, I want to see the 300-yard games. I'll keep it real with you. I've been biting my tongue a lot the last couple of weeks. Y'all already know over here at Awthentik and the Beard, I'm viable to change my opinion at any given moment. I've been trying to bite my tongue on this, but this offense has to find a way to be able to put points up early, especially in that first half. Like, I took some notes in this game after the first half, and I was just, like, floored by what I was writing here. And now it's become a thing. You're starting to see it go around social media a lot more. But as the games go on, I like to take notes and just, you know, things that stand out to me that I know that I won't be able to get from certain analysts and things like that. So I try to take notes during the game on little key points and whatnot. Now, at the end of the first quarter, these were my notes. The Giants have one rushing attempt for 3 yards at the end of the first quarter. Unacceptable. Giants started the game with 3 3-and-outs, and I put and counting because I thought we were going to get another one, but we didn't get another one. The fourth drive happened to get a little bit better. But 3 3-and-outs. Now, that's the first time that the Giants have started a game with 3 3-and-outs, and Mark Sanchez said this during the broadcast, since 2017. And the quarterback who started that game for the New York Giants was Geno Smith. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Daniel Jones, at this point at the end of the first quarter, he was 4 for 7 for 12 yards, man. You cannot continuously think that you are going to back teams down into the fourth quarter and be pulling these Muhammad Ali rope-a-dopes and be able to close the coffin in the fourth quarter every game. Now, I know it looks great, right? We're looking at Brian Dable and we're going, oh, he's fantastic. He's doing a great job. Look at him, man. He waits till the last minute, till the fourth quarter to finally open up the offense and then be able to put the nail in the coffin. And normally it's led to a New York Giants win. In this game, that wasn't the case. And I think that most of the games this season, when you look at the way we've won in the fourth quarter, you could look at them, they could have gone the other way, to be honest. I mean, I look at the Tennessee Titans game, that game could have gone the other way. A made field goal against the Tennessee Titans, and the New York Giants already got their second loss of the season when we played the Cowboys, okay? There's been a bunch of games here. If you look at the collapse from Lamar Jackson, who had collapsed 3 times in a row before that game against the New York Giants, they have another fourth quarter collapse, and the Giants find a way to come back in that game. Packers game in London, same exact vibes. You end up coming back in the fourth quarter. So I do think we are very fortunate to have the record that we have this season because we've played in a lot of close games. I mean, you heard it. This is the first game that was not decided by one score all year long. In the previous regimes, we've had this. We've played games tight, close. I can even remember some games around the Odell Beckham time. There was a couple of seasons there where, like, man, every game was a 3-point game, 4-point game, 7-point game that we were losing. Now you just happen to see the coin kind of flip with the Brian Dable coaching staff here, and we're getting wins out of these games. But that is pathetic. 12 passing yards coming out of the first quarter. I've been talking about it for 2 weeks at least now, 3 weeks. The Giants have been taking their time trying to get Saquon Barkley going in the second half, and they're almost like disguising it in the first half because they know teams are going to come out, stack the box against Saquon Barkley, and it's going to force Daniel Jones to throw the ball. So in my thinking, what Brian Dable and Mike Kafka are doing is they're saying, let's get the ugly out of the way early on in the first half to determine what we're going to have to do in the second half. In this game, they waited a little bit too long, and those two fumbles on the punt returns, I was going to say muff punts, but those two fumbles on the returns, those were definitely costly late in this game. I mean, when you talking about limited opportunities for the New York Giants in the fourth quarter already, and then when you get after a 3-and-out from the New York Giants, now you get the 3-and-out stop from your defense, and you get Richie James, who fumbles the punt. And literally the broadcasters, Mark Sanchez, and I forget the other guy who was on the call, they're literally talking about it. They're like, Richie James back to punt, back to receive the punt. He fumbled his first one. He makes a move, and he just loses the ball. The first one that he had, no one even hit the ball. It's like he just spinning, and he just loses the ball. Got to get those things cleaned up. I think the Giants fans got a little bit too accustomed to expecting, myself included, expecting the fourth quarter comeback victory. I tweeted out with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, this is the first time I felt nervous in this entire game. When if I would have just really, really, really took the fan goggles off and really looked at what was going on, I would have known myself that the Giants put themselves in a terrible situation late in this game, even before the Richie James second fumbled punt return. So for me, those first quarter stats, I should have really known what was going on in this game. Instead, I kind of paid it no mind, and I thought, hey, it's going to be more of the same. The Giants will find a way to get this popping, at least in the second half, and if not in the second half, then definitely in the fourth quarter. In this game, that was not the case, and unfortunately, the Giants, come across their second loss of the season, which is that's not a good look for us. I don't care even if we were sitting at 6-1, to get another loss like this against a beatable team in the Seattle Seahawks who came out more prepared than us. There is a lot of coaching in this game that I think was the big difference, as well as what happened with the turnovers, obviously. But we ended up losing the turnover battle 2-1. So we know about the Lockett fumble on the 2-yard line. That kind of gave us our points. The offense just wasn't it. Now, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks in the second quarter here just a little bit, too. Now, the Seahawks, they converted 2 fourth-down conversions before that DK Metcalf touchdown to go up 7-0 in this one. Geno Smith and DK converted on that 3rd and 14. There was also a face mask penalty on that drive as well. So early on, the Giants' defense was giving Seattle second opportunities to be able to go down here and put up points on the board. DK Metcalf was really not a factor in the second half, but in the first half, he definitely was the reason why their offense got clicking. He had a couple of catches there early on. At the end of the day, Geno Smith had, I believe, 6 receptions on the day for just over 50 or 60 yards, I believe it was. I'm looking for them stats real quick for y'all so I can get that accurate. DK Metcalf, 6 receptions for 55 yards. He had 10 targets on the day, so they did target him pretty early on and often in this game. Now, Tyler Lockett fumbles on the 2-yard line after that. Really, to me, this was it was a game-saving moment, if you ask me, early on in this game, because they just started to get Kenneth Walker going on that drive. They're getting down there in the red zone. It looks like they're about to punch it and go in to go up by 2 scores. And you get a fantastic strip there by, I believe that was by Dory Jackson on that one. And Tyler Lockett fumbles on the 2-yard line. Now, Tyler Lockett, it's his first mistake of the day. The cameras quite aren't panning on him just yet, making him the focal point of why the Seattle Seahawks are struggling, but we're going to definitely get there. Defense makes a stop, and Richie James fumbles his first one. So you're getting a pretty sloppy, ugly first half by both teams. Seattle ends up going into the half 10-7. I thought we were in a pretty good position considering the way that the offense had played up to that point. The Giants had 46 total yards at the half, man. You cannot expect to win games like that. 2.1 yards per play is the fewest yards of any half of the season by the Giants, any half. So this was definitely the worst half that the Giants played on the entire season. Now, second half, you get a new man in Geno Smith, and this is where I got to send a little shout-out to the homie. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets one time, because this is where the title Geno Smith delivers and sends the Giants packing came from. This was Geno's moment. I always talk about those windows and those opportunities when a game is kind of, it's kind of seesawing just a little bit and you don't know who's going to take the game, and you have a window, an opportunity for you to jump through it. And to me, this was Geno's opportunity. 13-13, Geno Smith's on that sideline. The cameras pan to him. You see him getting everybody hyped up. It reminded me of Daniel Jones last week and the week before that, when you see Daniel Jones dapping everybody up, getting everybody ready. He had that conversation with Tyler Lockett. Geno Smith did. Looked at him eye to eye, went right over to him. You could see the cameras panning on him. He's letting them know we are going to need you in this game, bro. This could be the drive. I'm looking at the Seattle Seahawks on the sidelines getting ready to get on the field, and I'm just like, man, this looked like a movie script right here. This looked like Geno Smith's about to drive them down the field, put up 7 on the board, and make it a lot more difficult for the New York Giants to be able to be, in this game late. And that's exactly what Geno Smith did. You get a pass to DK Metcalf, a pass to Tyler Lockett, another one to DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett double move for a 33-yard touchdown after the big drop. It was Tyler Lockett's first drop of the season in the first half, the one that hit him in the face mask. And after that big drop and the big fumble, notice I'm making some key points here. They don't go and bench their guy. They keep him on the field. Granted, Tyler Lockett is a guy who is a savvy veteran that's been putting up big numbers for a long time in this league. But they didn't lose faith. They had a game plan coming into this week for the New York Giants, and they stuck to it. Geno Smith goes 5 for 5 for 75 yards and a touchdown to Tyler Lockett on that drive. And now the Seattle Seahawks are sitting up 20-13 in this game. You got 0 blitzes from Wink Martindale on the entire drive. This was the first drive for the Seattle Seahawks in the second half. I don't know if Wink Martindale was trying to play, a little bit of chess here. Maybe they thought that, hey, the Seattle Seahawks are going to expect the blitz. Let's not dial up these blitzes. Let's play a little bit more conservative. Maybe we can find a way to make a play here in the back end of our secondary, maybe even a turnover or something. But that definitely did not work. 20-13, the Seattle Seahawks go up on the New York Giants. And now we're sitting in that hole that we're kind of accustomed to, being in, down 7. I'm very comfortable when Daniel Jones is down 7. I expect Daniel Jones to put up good drives when we're down 7. And in this case, you end up getting a drive stalled. You get the stop. Richie James fumbles his second punt. The Giants defense got the 3-and-out and forced the punt before that, too. That's what was so disheartening about the second fumble from Richie James on the day, was that the Giants got the 3-and-out stop. But now listen, we cannot forget that right before that, the drive right before Richie James fumbled and right before the New York Giants got the 3-and-out stop on the Seattle Seahawks, we had the ball, and we were down by 7. This was after Geno Smith's touchdown to Tyler Lockett, and we're down by 7. And what does the New York Giants offense do? They go out there and put up another 3-and-out. So for me, horrendous day by the New York Giants offensively. The worst offensive output of the season, for sure. Richie James fumbles were definitely a big thing here, okay? But to me, you got to keep the faith in Richie James, okay? A lot of people were calling for him to be pulled out of this game after he had the first fumble. But I think that when you have a game plan and you are limited, there's not a lot of depth pieces on this New York Giants roster. I know a lot of people are like, put Brightwell back there. A lot of people were talking about put Matt Breida back there, who Matt Breida hasn't even really returned too many punts, if any, this season. But I think you got to stick with it. And the Seattle Seahawks show you, with a proven player, when you stick with it, things can go right. And it did go right for the Seattle Seahawks. Kenneth Walker ends up barreling his way into the end zone, and they go up 27-13, and that's pretty much the game. I pretty much clocked out after that. Daniel Jones got sacked a couple of times. The Giants ended up getting 2 more opportunities. We were pretty much in panic mode late in that game, and I just didn't expect much. Limited on timeouts. I just knew the Giants weren't going to be able to get it done. There was only about maybe 4 minutes left on the clock at that point in the game. So the Giants suffered their second loss of the season, 27-13 to the Seahawks. Questions, man. There's so many questions for this New York Giants team. And for me, is what do you do when the team's game plan is to stop Saquon Barkley? Teams moving forward are definitely going to be keeping their eyes on Daniel Jones and all that bootleg, all that read option. You didn't see a lot of RPO in this one. I don't know why that was. We did see some RPO against the Jaguars, but you didn't see a lot of RPO against the Seahawks in this one. And the Seahawks pretty much came into this game and said, we're going to stop Saquon Barkley. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, Saquon Barkley pretty much had his worst game of the year. 20 rushes for 53 yards, 2.6 yards per carry. That ain't going to get it done. And, I've been talking about the ugly games and how you got to get it done with the ugly games. You can't be averaging 2.6 yards per carry. The ugly games got to be 20 carries for 70 at bare minimum. 3 receptions for 9 yards. Saquon Barkley was pretty much a non-factor in the passing game for the New York Giants. We can't forget about that drop, about an 8-yard pass. The pass was not that accurate either, but I think Daniel Jones was trying to keep Saquon out of harm's way and kind of guide him away from the defender on that one. But nonetheless, it's a drop from Saquon Barkley. And I think we're seeing that a little bit too frequent from Saquon Barkley for a player of his caliber. I won't say, too frequent for a normal player, but for a guy of Saquon Barkley's caliber, we're seeing that just a little bit too much, those inopportune drops that we're seeing from Saquon Barkley. And another thing I noticed in this game was Daniel Jones, when you take away his legs, these kind of games are going to be iffy. It's going to be hard to win games like this with 176 passing yards. He was 17 of 31. This is now, I think, 2-3 weeks in a row where we're seeing the completion percentage kind of, not be that great. A lot of that has to do with the drops from the receivers. We can't say this without mentioning the drops from the wide receivers last week. I believe it was 5 drops on the day. Daniel Jones was like 19 of 29 or 30 or something like that last week. I'm winging it here, but definitely had 5 drops from his wide receivers. Some tight window drops. Some of those, you want those back. I remember the throw to Richie James that was actually was to Wan'Dale Robinson on his back shoulder. And then there was another one to Marcus Johnson that was a little bit inaccurate in a tight window as well. But, we're looking to clean this up a little bit. I think that a lot of this falls on the coaching staff. Not having Bellinger was definitely a detriment to this offense because those easier throws to get Daniel Jones in rhythm, those weren't there. But these kind of stat lines aren't going to win the games. You need more in the rushing department from Daniel Jones if this kind of stat line is going to win games. The QBR is the one that stands out a lot to me, too, there. 24.2 on the QBR, that's not that good, man. So Giants got to go back to the drawing board here during the bye week and figure out other ways to win games. Playing mistake-free football is cool until you start making mistakes. You cannot go into an NFL game and not expect people and players, to be out there making at least some kind of mistakes on a day. What are you going to do and how are you going to pivot is very important for me, and the New York Giants' success moving forward, to be honest. This defense needs some help, too. That's another thing I'm starting to notice. Really, there's only been one game where the defense kind of came out early. That was the Packers game where they shot themselves in the foot. And then I also put the Cowboys game. The Cowboys game, the New York Giants struggled to stop the run against the Cowboys. I mean, I want to say they had both backs get close to 100 in that game. Zeke Elliott and Pollard. Pollard, who had an amazing day this past week, too, on Sunday. But definitely, man, got to find a way to help this defense out. The defense has been playing well. Brian Dable and Mike Kafka have been getting a lot of the credit, as far as the New York Giants' success. But I think, when we talk about that hierarchy of the reasons why the New York Giants are winning games, I think that we got to put Wink Martindale in the defense maybe at the top, like the top. We'll go coaching total at the top. But then that defense, they're right there, man. They're keeping us in all of these games. The reason why the New York Giants have been in 7 one-score games is because of this defense. The defense is definitely holding us down. So I'm looking for Brian Dable and Mike Kafka to find more ways. They've already found ways, but try to find more ways to get this offense put into the positions to be able to win games. Because the game plan this past week or, yesterday, I don't like how they neglecting Saquon Barkley so much in the first half and then trying to rev it up so crazy in the second half. I talked about this going into the game. Saquon Barkley led the NFL in second half rushing attempts with 91. His first half rushing attempts, I believe he was 14th in the NFL with 52. So I just want to see a little bit more balance. That's like, let me get 60-40 over the 70-25 kind of vibes. Let me get 60-40. I think that Saquon Barkley is the pulse of this offense, especially when you got all these injuries out there. There's not really many other playmakers outside of Saquon Barkley and Darius Slayton. And they've gone away from Richie James, which I think might have, maybe added a little bit to his confidence, taking a little bit of a hit. When you out there, with the offense, taking snaps, you can build a kind of a rhythm out there, especially for a guy he's not known to just turn it on and turn it off like that. Richie James, relatively a guy who's not done much in this league. He had that one big game in San Francisco for like 180 yards and like 2 touchdowns or something like that. But outside of that, Richie James is just another guy. He's a depth piece, and he's been called upon to step up and be a key piece in our special teams and not delivering. I think that the Giants are going to have to reconsider that. Who's going to be returning punts for us? But Richie James does give us a capability of being able to have some explosivity back there at the punt return. But losing the ball, you cannot be a liability in the special teams game. 2 of those. The second one was the more costly one. And, the Seattle Seahawks got 10 points off of those turnovers. That's not a recipe for victories right there, especially when you got an offense who's not showing up. pretty much every game. If Daniel Jones does not light up the box score with his legs, the Giants offense is going to have trouble, especially if Saquon Barkley is not getting it going. And this is a couple of games in a row for Saquon Barkley where they've been pretty gritty. He's been trying to churn out the yards, but the Giants are going to have to try to find a way here. So, before we get into these overreactions, I got 4 overreactions on the day here. A lot of them are quarterback driven. I got a wide receiver one, and I got one that's just based upon this game. I want to see what y'all assessment is on this game, and the quarterback play directly in this game. Shout out to Stan one time in the building. I see you, fam. Sac passe. Let me see. He's got a question here. Let's get this question on the board and swap this out real quick. He says, "Would you at least understand why if he doesn't make a trade?" Oh, he's talking to Jukes on this one. I wanna know what Jukes said on that one. Jukes said, especially the second fumble was inexcusable. Yeah, the second one's inexcusable for sure. The first one you can live off that first one, but the second one is super critical. So I definitely agree with you on that, Jukes. I'm trying to go back to see what Stan was responding on because that looked like a good one. Yeah, Jukes was talking about Bellinger being a big loss, as we all expected. Yeah, and I know a lot of people did bring up a lot of excuses about that. I'll call them excuses, but they're good excuses. With Daniel Bellinger being out of the game, Richie James being out of the game, not Richie James, I'm sorry, Evan Neal being out of this game, and then who was out at left guard? Was Bredesen out in this game too? I believe Bredesen was out in this game too. So we're just piling on top of those injuries, man, and I don't want to make up too many excuses for the New York Giants, but it's tough when you just keep losing guys like this. We're definitely thinking next man up, but we can only go next man up until there's no man left. So I definitely feel you on that, Jukes. Let me see here. Shout out to Keith one time in the building, Keith Wilson Jr. Appreciate that $4.99 super chat one time. He says, "My guy, salute. I think our deficiencies just caught up with us." I agree with you on that 100%. We need some wide receiver threats. Might as well run a wing T with this personnel. You brought back the wing T, bro. That's throwback big time. We used to, man, I have a very disdain for the wing T and the wishbone offense because when I played high school football, right, I got moved to wide receiver my junior year, actually. And my coach decided against the best team in the whole county. We were playing against Seneca Valley and Chris Kelly, and they were undefeated for like 3 years in a row. And my coach decided to run the wishbone. So I had to sit on the sideline the whole game. We went double tight wishbone, and we got our ass kicked like 40-7 or something crazy. So I definitely have this major disdain for the wing T and the wishbone. But I feel you, man. This personnel, man, at wide receiver, we're struggling. And being that we had Bellinger out, I saw that Bobby from Talking Giants was talking about this too, man. The lack of 2 tight end sets and having the extra tight end there as a blocking tight end. We cannot forget how much Daniel Bellinger brings to this offense in the running game, and Evan Neal as well. So if you're wondering why Saquon Barkley's output was a lot lower than, what he's put up thus far in the season, a lot of it had to do with that. But I definitely agree with you on this, man. I think that our deficiencies definitely just caught up to us. We knew they were there, It's like the devil was on our shoulder right there, and we kind of just trying to ignore him, just looking to the angel side a whole bunch. We're looking at Eminem or looking at Dr. Dre when we needed to be looking at Eminem just a little bit there because the deficiencies are clear on this team, but we've been finding a way to be able to get victories, with the deficiencies. And I think a lot of our fan base has been overlooking it, but they're there. We know it. The wide receiver core has been terrible. We entering this game, we were the only team in the NFL that didn't have a wide receiver with 200 yards. So, and Richie James was leading us in yards. That's not the vibes. Definitely not the vibes. But shout out to Keith Wilson Jr. one time, pulling up and rocking with us on a Giant overreaction, man. And shout out to Jukes one time, man. Appreciate you for that $2 super chat. He said, "My question was Shane wastes an opportunity to get a wide receiver. Will he or we'll see. We definitely gonna talk about wide receiver, Jukes. I might even start the overreaction with that. Seems wide receiver is a hot topic today. Let me see. He says, "My question was will Shane waste an opportunity?" Maybe it was, will Shane waste an opportunity to get a wide receiver? I think he might. I mean, what do we got till tomorrow or something like that? The trade deadline's definitely this week. I think he might, because there are deficiencies at the wide receiver position on his team for sure, right? But and I know last week there was a big argument going on around Twitter between a bunch of content creators that we know, and a lot of them were trying to say that the Giants are not in a rebuild right now, and I strongly disagree with that. Like, we are definitely in a rebuild, but we are just superseding the expectations of the staff, the front office, the team, the fan base, all of that. But that doesn't mean that we're not in a rebuild. A lot of these guys that you see on this team, especially all these depth pieces in the wide receiver department, and I don't mean to throw no shade on these guys on a Monday afternoon after a loss, but guys like Sills, Richie James, even a guy like Darius Slayton, who's playing decent football. I'm trying to think who else out there. Marcus Johnson. They're all expendable. Don't be surprised if you don't see these guys on the roster next year. And a bunch of other players. Don't forget about defensively. I mean, there's a ton of guys out there at the linebacker position. You got Tate Crowders. You got Jalen Smiths. You got a lot of guys that you might not see on this roster next year. So we are 1,000% in a rebuild right now. And my homie's texting me. This is the homie, and the reason why I'm a Giants fan, so I got to look, you know what I'm saying? He says, you think we will make any trades today? He says, I don't think so. Yo, spot on. Like, if this could not be, like, at a perfect timing for my homie Patrick. Shout out to the homie Patrick one time, man. I don't think so either. Like, it won't surprise me if they go make a move on a wide receiver, but it's like something in my gut just tells me that we're not going to make a move to get a wide receiver. And there's not a lot of guys out there, I feel like. There are a couple opportunities. We've talked about Claypool, Judy. Somebody mentioned Terrence Marshall Jr. We got DJ Moore was talked about a little bit, but we know that contract's a bit steep for the New York Giants. Who else? I want to say there was a wide receiver from the Jets that was calling for a trade. There's a few people out there. I've heard Brandon Ayuk, Brandon Cooks. We've heard a bunch of them. So I don't know. I do think that the Giants might. I don't want to use the word waste, Jukes. You feel me? But I think they might squander. They might squander an opportunity to go out there and get a wide receiver, man. But I appreciate you, Jukes, pulling up, man, and supporting the channel. That goes a long way, man. Y'all know what it is over here at Awthentik and the Beard, trying to raise the bar every year, man, on the quality and the type of content that we bring y'all. But, man, shout out to Patrick, man, because that was perfect timing. We got the super chat from Jukes, and then my homie Patrick, who's the reason why I'm a Giants fan, hits me up asking pretty much the same exact question there. And Oscar Unrated says, no point in trading Tony, then signing more. No point in trading Tony, then signing more. Elaborate on that a little bit, Oscar. I want to know what you mean on that just a little bit. Because Tony wasn't, no productivity out of Tony at all for this New York Giants team in the 2022 season. DJ Moore, and I did tweet this out right when DJ Moore made that major play and then took his helmet off and got the flag. I don't give a damn. Kicker got to make that kick. And DJ Moore said, that is how I reacted pretty much in the heat of the moment. A play that big, it's not excusable. But I will take a guy like DJ Moore on our team any day of the year. A lot of Giants fans took, that window opportunity right there to pretty much shit on DJ Moore, saying that he's a bad player and he's not, the kind of guy that you would want to bring into the New York Giants locker room and bring into this culture because he's not, suitable for this type of culture. I disagree. That was a big play. In that game, there were so many lead changes in that Carolina Panthers and Atlanta Falcons game. To see your team get another opportunity like that, DJ Moore makes that big, 50-yard play, man. Your emotions get to running wild. And in that case, the emotions got the best of him. I always say, man, these players aren't robots. You can't look at them like, they're Madden players, man. They're real human beings, and the human came out of DJ Moore after making that play. It is inexcusable. I know it's inexcusable, but no one's talking about that if that kicker makes, what is that, a 30-yard chip shot, extra point after the penalty, 15. So let me see. You're on a 2, 15 yards away. You got a 15-yard penalty. So 17, 7 for the snap. You're looking at about a good 34-yard kick right there. You got to knock that down. Especially after your homie just made that kind of a play. And that was I want to say they gave him another opportunity and the field goal kicker missed another kick, man. He was shaking. It reminded me of a clip that I saw on Twitter with a college quarterback for, I believe it was Oklahoma State University, a freshman who was coming into the game, and they zoomed in on his hands while he was getting ready to take his first snap, and the kid was literally like this the whole time he was trying to take the snap. He was like, pretty much shitting bricks. So, we know the pressure gets to cooking. These guys are human. So DJ Moore showed his human characteristics, and that kicker showed his especially. And in return, the Carolina Panthers looking terrible today. But the Carolina Panthers are fighting. probably the team that you would say is in the biggest rebuild of all right now after losing Matt Rule as their coach, sending CMC to the San Francisco 49ers, who got the Triple Crown this week, threw for a touchdown, rushed for a touchdown, and caught a touchdown. That's looking like a great move for the San Francisco 49ers. But, yeah, I don't fault DJ Moore for sure. We're going to get off into some of these overreactions, man. Y'all know how it is over here at Awthentik and the Beard. Shout out to Pandemonium one time in the building, man. I appreciate the $5 super chat, my brother. Definitely goes a long way. I'm trying to see what jersey that is, right? Jonestown. Oh, I don't know about that. You know, if y'all don't know about the real Jim Jones, do your research and do some investigating on Jonestown. And I believe that was in Guyana, man. One of the biggest mass murders ever in the history of this whole entire country, man. That was a wild one. Jonestown on the jersey. That's pretty gangster right there. But shout out to Pandemonium one time with the $5 super chat. He says, if they don't go get a wide receiver, DJ's not coming back next year. Wow, man, I wish you would have sent me that on Twitter. That could have been something we used as some overreaction material. So, chat, y'all know how it is. Y'all know how we do on Giant Overreaction. I want y'all to overreact to this one y'all seeing in the screen. Let me know, is this an overreaction or are you taking the under? If indeed you think this is an overreaction, let me see some O's in the chat. If you agree with what Pandemonium is saying here on the screen, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Pandemonium, but I'm sure you all good with it. It's all love over here. We all fam. If you agree with what Pandemonium is saying, that DJ will not be back next year if the Giants do not go make a move on a wide receiver before the trade deadline, let me see some U's in the chat. And I don't think we can take the push on this one. This is real deal Holyfield right here. You can't take the push on this one. But let me know what y'all thinking over there in the chat one time on this one. We'll see what we get. Jux said, we know the real Jim Jones. I know that's right, Jux. And I think there was one more super chat right there. Oh, shout out to Jux one time in the building, man. I appreciate that. $2 super chat one time. He says, why is Pat the reason you bleed blue and not commie red? Okay, so Patrick, for one, the Giants just happened to be really good during this kind of a stretch when I was like an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 86, and then in 91. And Patrick, who was like, we were just so tough coming up as kids, bro. Like, literally connected at the hip, okay? And we still tough till this day. This is my sandbox brother, okay? And his family, his father, rest in peace, Richard, he was actually from New Jersey and a big New York Giants fan. So my best friend was a New York Giants fan during the time when the New York Giants were just so happened to be popping. And all that just kind of like, weighed in on why I'm a New York Giants fan I'm literally from the DMV. I was born in this area, and I live in D.C., raised in Silver Spring, Maryland. So, just as a kid, when you pick that team, I picked the Giants and I picked the Orlando Magic because I thought I was going to be the next Penny Hardaway when I was a kid, and I was a big Penny fan. So I picked the Orlando Magic and I picked the New York Giants way back, and I'd say about like 1990, I'd say it was like solidified. In late 80s, I was kind of trying to figure out my football team, still watching a lot, but Rodney Hampton had a lot to do with that. And my brother Patrick, man, like his family, I used to be over their crib all the time, man. His mother and his father pretty much were like babysitters to us. And, Patrick's definitely a big reason. And his fresh 1990 New York Giants starter jacket, when he came to elementary school with that thing on, I was like, I think the decision is made here. I'm a New York Giants fan. So shout out to Jux, man, for supporting. I don't think there was a moment there where I might have thought about being a Commanders fan way back in the day. My mom had bought me this black jean jacket, and it was fresh, man. It had the Washington logo on the chest. It was super fresh. I wore it like a couple times, started getting a little bit clowned for it just a little bit. And, I've been a New York Giants fan ever since. So I'd say all the way from about 1990 up until now, been a New York Giants fan. But shout out to Jux, man, for that $2 super chat, man. Definitely you and Pat in sync. Y'all were in sync on that one. And let me just catch up to that overreaction. So Zach took the under on the Pandemonium, saying that he agrees with that. But Jordan took the push. I told y'all we couldn't take the push, Jordan. Jordan took the push. J. Gene, Oscar, Greg, a few others took the overreaction. Bookend, Willie Bean, JJ, they all took the overreaction. But I'm not too sure how to say this one. Deedon, Shelton, Deadon, maybe Deedon. I'm going to go with Deedon. Shelton took the under as well. And Bubs took the under as well, too. That was a tough question. That's why I was like, let's bring that one up. All right, so let me see. Oscar says, DJ coming back, if we offer him a contract, he's not going to want to leave the one coaching staff he finally starts to have success with. Yeah, that's a good point. But if they don't go get a wide receiver, what does that say about the team moving forward? And I think that's what Pandemonium was leaning towards as well. Jay Jean also had a reasoning for the overreaction. I don't think other teams really know how to use DJ, so they ain't going to spend bucks on him when success ain't guaranteed. That's true too, yeah. But I think that you could study what Brian Dable and Mike Kafka are doing with Daniel Jones and try to apply that. Let me get a little swig of this one time. But I will say this, and we're going to talk about this a little bit when we get off into this quarterback conversation here. The game plan for the New York Giants that Brian Dable and Mike Kafka have been implementing, I've been saying this a lot. It doesn't look that different than what we saw last year, but fourth quarter play has been a lot better, and I will say the play calling has been a good chunk better over what we saw from Jason Garrett for sure. Situational football by Brian Dable has been really good this year as well. You know, not those silly, egregious kind of challenges that we were getting used to and time management type of things that we, came accustomed to with the Joe Judge regime and whatnot. So I have seen improvement. Don't get it twisted. It's definitely been an improvement. But I think with Daniel Jones and the lack of wide receiver depth on this team and the injuries, we're starting to see that maybe no coach can deal with these kind of circumstances, and be able to put up high offensive output and productivity. We're definitely starting to see that. Just want to catch up to the chat one time here. Zach says a $31 million franchise tag for a quarterback next season is what it's going to be, $31.4 million. So that's probably what it would cost to bring Daniel Jones back on a franchise tag. Let me see what Zeke's talking about here. Zeke said no fifth year, traded away a potential weapon. Make no move at the deadline. Sorry, no Jones next year. And let me put that on the screen so y'all can see that. That's a very methodical way to assess that. I like that. They didn't pick up the fifth-year option. They traded away one of his potential weapons in Kadarius Toney. And if they don't pick up a wide receiver here by the deadline, it's starting to point towards that a little bit. I think Zeke broke that down. Very elaborate right there. I like that. I definitely like that take right there. All right, y'all. So let's get off into it. Y'all know how we do over here on the Giant Overreaction, man. If you agree with the statement that you see on the screen, that means you want to take the under. Put a U in the chat. If you think the statement on the screen is an overreaction, put an O in the chat. Most of the gang here already knows the rules. And if you need a little bit more time and you want to take a push, you can put a P in the chat and give you a little bit more time to be able to assess your thoughts, maybe a week or two. Come back. I like to go over some of these overreactions again sometimes. You can come back, reassess it, and see where you stand after putting up the push. So without further ado, man, let's get off into this next Giant Overreaction. We're going to start this one off really easy because this was the one that I was seeing go around the internet the most, especially on Twitter. A lot of blame for Richie James. I took, I was looking through the thread where Bobby posted his thoughts from Talking Giants. He mentioned the two costly turnovers from Richie James, and people were just dragging this man in the comments, saying Richie James pretty much needs to be cut, should have been benched after he fumbled the first one. I disagree with that, but the second one was extremely costly, and that's why you leave a guy out there to see what he's made of. And I think we kind of get to see what Richie James is made of after you get the second fumble, and I do think it's a major question mark moving forward for the New York Giants. You can't forget I brought up some correlation to Tyler Lockett as well. He had the two grand mistakes early on in this game with the fumble on the 2-yard line, the big drop. You can't forget about the Goodwin drop as well. A lot of people thought Adoree Jackson might have broke that one up, but that was just a clear-cut drop. That's another 7 points that could have been on the board for the Seattle Seahawks. But Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, they put faith in their guy Tyler Lockett after the two mistakes, and he came through to make the big play of the game on the double move route that scored the go-ahead touchdown to put them up by 7 in this game. So I think it was the right move for Brian Dable, especially with the lack of depth to keep Richie James out there. But Richie James, you just can't do it. You can't do it. I don't think that he was single-handedly the reason why the New York Giants lost the game. So I'm going to come out and say that before I see y'all answers in the chat. We're working on that poll that we were talking about with, I believe that was either Lax or Waterfly who brought that up, trying to get a poll so that we could tally up the overreactions and who's taking the under. We're going to have that next week. I'm going to guarantee that for y'all, all right? Just looking through some of the overreactions here or unders here. Steven Arce is taking the under one time on this one. Jacob, shout out to Jacob, new face in the building. Salute, welcome, fam. Taking the under as well. Real People says he had part in it, but he didn't lose the game by himself. That's where I'm standing with it too. Chris Peace agrees with the overreaction. Shout out to Chris Peace, man. I got to chop it up with him in person, sort of, via the internets on the Pest and Rob stream just, what was that, last week? Shout out to you, fam. I appreciate all you do for our channel, man. All the retweets, all the posting about our channel, trying to bring attention to what we're doing over here at Awthentik and the Beard definitely does not go unseen, brother. I appreciate you. But Chris Peace is taking the under. He agrees that Richie James single-handedly did lose this game. I don't agree with you on that, but I respect the opinion one time. Jukes, he's correcting this to a bunch of U's. Richie James proved why practice squad players should only practice. That's a bar right there. Yeah, that's real. That's definitely real. And Sean G says that guy sucks. Well, that guy was the leading receiver as far as yards go entering this game. I won't say he sucks, but we shouldn't expect. I don't ever say that. If you notice, I don't never say that on this channel. I will never say a player sucks. I think it's easy to sit back at our cribs, man, and say these guys are terrible, but they out there trying to do their best underneath the bright lights, man, and some of them just not cut out for it. Some of these players are extremely better than others, and Richie James, he's called upon the practice squad and, a depth piece to come up and try to make plays. Unfortunately, didn't make the plays in this game. Did this really just happen? Did that really just happen? Y'all know I got to take a break on that one real quick. Let me take to Twitter real quick. Did that really just happen? Did that really just happen? Ian Rappaport. Sources say Bears linebacker Roquan Smith is traded to the Ravens. We got some breaking news here on Awthentik and the Beard. The Giant overreaction, Week 8 edition, and Roquan Smith is headed to Baltimore. That is major. Damn. Making them moves. I got to get off here soon, y'all. We're going to try to cut this show about an hour and a half so I can keep my eyes on this trade deadline and what's going on here. Shout out to Stan one time. We talked about this a little bit in my DMs, and I agreed with him. It wasn't just on James. James was definitely a big part of it, but it wasn't just on James. And I hope they don't make him a scapegoat for this game, man. And I hope they don't cut him. We need him right now. We need him, especially if they don't make no moves on no wide receivers. We need him. Wan'Dale Robinson was relatively quiet in this game. I've been begging for Richie James to get a couple more snaps, maybe not out of the slot position, but try to find a way to get the kid on the field. Man, I feel bad for Richie James because all that work he was doing the first couple of weeks, all people was doing was giving credit to Daniel Jones. Oh, man, Daniel's out there throwing the practice squad wide receivers, and Richie James was doing a damn good job, man, filling in for Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay being hurt. And Wan'Dale Robinson. We can't forget about Wan'Dale Robinson was hurt as well, too. And Giants fans never gave this guy his props. Never gave this guy his props. I think it's a little bit harsh when he has a bad game to attack him and call for his job. I think that's a little bit harsh, man. I definitely don't think this was all on Richie James. I'm going to just go through a couple more of these. A bunch of people say it was an overreaction. Primetime 816 says it's an overreaction. Jay Jean says it's an overreaction. If your team is relying on one wide receiver / punt returner to win a game, that's a team. Wow. Yo, y'all, I need to get y'all on the show because y'all dropping bars today on this Monday afternoon. This is a bar right here. If your team is relying on one wide receiver / punt returner to win a game, that's a team failure. Now, we can't overlook how egregious these mistakes were. They're terrible mistakes. But the fact that Richie James is being relied upon, you got to question that as well, too. That's a bar, J. Gene. I definitely like that. Zach says it's an overreaction as well. This is a team game. Everyone contributed to the loss, and the Giants got outplayed across the board. I mean, look, speaking of the Giants getting outplayed, okay, let's look at some of these team stats that we cannot not mention, okay? The Giants, for third down and fourth down combined, were 6 for 17. Total plays, we had 2 more plays than the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks outgained us 277 total yards to 225. Yards per play, Seattle Seahawks won that department 4.5 to 3.5. Passing yards, they had 190, and the New York Giants had 147. If you look at the completion percentage, Geno Smith, 23 of 34, Daniel Jones, 17 of 31. Both teams didn't throw any interceptions on the day. Look at the penalties. The Giants had 5 penalties. The Seattle Seahawks had 3 penalties. Rushing, the Seattle Seahawks had 87 rushing yards. The New York Giants had 78, so we were outrushed. In the red zone, Giants were 50%. Seattle Seahawks were 66%. And correction on the penalties there. The penalties were 6 penalties for the New York Giants, 3 penalties for the Seattle Seahawks. The 2 fumbles, so the Seattle Seahawks win the turnover battle there because they only had the 1 fumble from Tyler Lockett. The only real category that I thought the New York Giants did a good job of, which is why I've been sending a lot of kudos to the defense, is we won the time of possession. The defense did do a good job of keeping Geno Smith on the sidelines along with that Seattle Seahawks offense. They had 8 possessions in the first half, and there was a point in the fourth quarter where Dan Duggan tweeted out that the Seattle Seahawks are getting ready to start their second possession of the second half, and that was the possession where Geno Smith went 5 for 5, 75 yards to Tyler Lockett. So, Zach, you bring up a good point there. I like that right there. Gregory says 50-50. I kind of agree. Yeah, you could put a lot of the loss on Richie James. I mean, it's hard to dig yourself out of 2 fumbles. That's for fact right there. Willie Bean 24 says this one's an overreaction. 3 3-and-outs on the first 3 drives. Their only touchdown came off of a turnover at the 2-yard line. Their offense lost this game. That's facts. Yeah, the offense was horrible in this game. And even if you you take away the fumble from Richie James, the second one, the drive before it, I brought attention to that. You had an opportunity there, down 20-13. It's a window, as I like to say over here on Awthentik and the Beard, and our offense didn't capitalize on it. You go 3 and out right when you get your first window. That's not how you win games. So Willie Bean definitely makes a good point there. Let me see. Real People says that Pete Carroll and Geno Smith were hungrier than the New York Giants. Yeah, you could see that right out the gate. You could see that. They were more prepared than we were in this game, and I don't know why that was. Stan says it could have been 41-6 if Adoree doesn't force a fumble and Lockett doesn't drop 2 touchdowns. So not just James' fault. Yeah, and I was thinking this. I'll take away one of the touchdowns here from you, Stan, and we'll call it like a 35-6 game because the one that Lockett didn't toe tap in the end zone, they ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive anyway. So you got to take that into consideration. But everything else you say is totally right. Like, yeah, you got the 2 drops. I'll say 1 drop. Yeah, I'll say 1 drop because the other one, he just couldn't get the toes down. Geno Smith, man, that boy is accurate. That boy is accurate, man. And he finished the day. I definitely can't go without talking about Geno Smith's stats on the day. 23 of 34, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions on the day, man. That kid is playing some really good football, and I got no reaction. We're going to get to that, too. But definitely agree with the homie Stan on this one, too. And, yeah, a bunch of overreactions from everybody, from Kareem Yee, Eric Davis. Shout out to Quayum Gilliam one time in the building one time. I hope I pronounced that right. That's a new name in the building, man. Appreciate you pulling up, fam. Who else we got overs? Bubs. DJ missed a wide open Kager, which could have led to points. That's facts. Yup, Bub says it's an overreaction one time. Caden Wade takes the under, and he says it's not close. But this one does seem to split the room a little bit. I think for the people that look at the game with a very keen eye on all the plays, I think that you can notice that the offense was definitely a big reason why they lost. To say that one player single-handedly lost the game is a little bit egregious, but when you do fumble 2 punt returns, I understand why somebody like Caden is saying, like, yeah, it's not even close because, yeah, those 2 turnovers were costly. They were extremely costly in this one. Sean G says, nah, you right, Awthentik, just still pissed about yesterday. Word, shout out to Sean G one time in the building. Evan's in the building. What's going on, Evan? Hope all is well with you, man, after that big loss we suffered there on Sunday afternoon to the Seattle Seahawks, 27-13, man. Hope you're doing all right, man. Hopefully this week flies by, man, because we got the bye week, man. We got a whole 2 weeks. We got to wait before the Giants get back on the field. This is going to be tough, man. And Steven Arts has a response here. So you're telling me 2 possessions lost for our offense didn't contribute to the loss. First one was 10-10 before halftime, and second one was even more huge. I don't know if you can say that, because we had a chance to tie, make it 2020. Yeah, you know what you're doing, Steven. I don't know if that response was to me, because I'm not saying that the 2 fumbles don't contribute to the loss. That would be absolutely batshit crazy to say that here. But I think the way you're looking at it like two boxers and you're looking at it from the perspective of the boxer that you want to win the match. That's what you're doing. You're not, if we're going to try to take away these fumbles or these mistakes or whatever you want to call them, and you think that those will be the reason why the New York Giants win, well, you got to put your shoe on the Seattle Seahawks side as well, too. You think they're looking at a guy like Tyler Lockett that's going to make two of those big mistakes like that in a game? One major fumble, one major drop, and then, I won't call the other one a drop like Stan, but I will say another mistake where a guy like Tyler Lockett normally gets his feet down in that situation. You got to look at it like both sides. You can't just look at the punches that are being landed from your side. So for me, it's like, yeah, of course it contributed to the loss. I don't know if this was for me or not, but of course it contributed to the loss. But if you look at the question here on the screen, it says, or the statement says, Richie James single-handedly lost the Giants the game, which we know that that's really not the case. And this tweet came from Kid Blue. I don't mind calling Kid Blue out. That's my guy one time. He kind of backpedaled a little bit on this. I kind of helped him out a little bit. He doesn't quite feel Richie James single-handedly lost him the game. But, you got to look at all phases of football. Daniel Jones didn't have a good game. Daniel Jones didn't do anything to win this game. Bottom line. Saquon Barkley didn't do anything to win this game. You look at that touchdown that he got, it was from the 2-yard line. Great. I'm not giving you kudos or no props on that, right? So Saquon Barkley didn't do much to win this game. The only factor in this game that, the side of the ball that really did something was the defense. The defense kept us in this game. And if the defense doesn't keep us in this game and the Seattle Seahawks don't go 3 of 13 on third down, this is a blowout. This is a blowout win. And, I had an argument with somebody at the beginning of the last season. I forget. Oh, it was the dude Albright. He's a like a beat writer or something. And he ended up blocking me after this conversation. But I do agree with something that he was trying to tell me then. When we lost to the Denver Broncos opening day last season, he told me it was a blowout. And the score, I believe, was exactly the same. It was a 2-score lead just like this. I think it was 27-13. And I disagreed with him at the time. But when you look at 27-13, that's pretty much a blowout. It wasn't a blowout in the first half. But by the time we got down to about 5-6 minutes left in the game, 27-13, this game's not even close no more. For me, it goes across the board. The coaching was not good. The play calling was not good in the first half. The offensive output was poor and pathetic. You cannot expect to win game. Even if Richie James doesn't fumble the two punt returns, you expected to win this game. Daniel Jones had an opportunity with the offense to go down right before the drive. They were down 20-13, and they go 3 and out. Daniel Jones and this offense started off the game with 3 and outs. What have I been harping on this whole entire time, this whole entire season? That the New York Giants cannot expect to continue to win games starting off that slow in the first half. And this is just a game where that happened. You cannot expect the New York Giants to play mistake-free football the whole entire season. Daniel Jones has 2 interceptions on the year. We can't expect that every game that he's not going to throw an interception. It's going to happen here sooner or later. It hasn't happened yet. In this game, it just so happened that it was Richie James that cost us the game. But who knows? It could have been a drop from Slayton. It could have been whatever. For me, you got to look at this like all of the players on this team cost us this loss. All of the coaches on this coaching staff cost us this loss. There's a little bit more emphasis on Richie James on a Monday afternoon, for sure. Two fumbles is major. But I'm not going to say that it did. Is there a person out there that is saying that Richie James fumbles weren't a reason why we lost the game? Now, that's crazy, bro. Come on. That don't make no sense. We better than that. We definitely better than that. So for me, I'm going to take this as an overreaction simply because he did not single-handedly lose us the game. That's where I'm going to leave that one at. And let me just scroll down, get a little bit caught up on the chat. I see y'all was booming. Shout out to everybody who's in the building today on this afternoon. This Giant Overreaction Week 8 edition, man. Y'all know we couldn't do this without y'all, man. And when we lose, we got to have these talks, These talks are going to be tough, but we got to have them when we lose. That's just what it is. And I see the beard is still in the building. I see Big Los is in the building. Shout out to Big Los one time in the building. Let me see what the beard was talking about. Don't worry, you guys can't root for the command. Don't worry. He says, don't worry, you guys can root for the Commanders in the beard on y'all bye week. That's why y'all was saying can't do it. JJ Stengel with the exclamation mark. Shout out to the beard one time in the building, man, holding us down, man. I definitely couldn't do this show without my brother, man. Definitely holds us down, man, on the whole back end of all this StreamYard stuff, man, and just getting these streams right and all this SEO stuff. Shout out to the homie, the beard one time. And let me just scroll, just make sure we all caught up here. Make sure we're not missing nothing. Shout out to Zach one time in the building. For the $2 super chat, he says, law of averages, the Giants were due for a loss. Couldn't have said it better, man. Could not have said it better. Shout out to Zach, man, for showing some support for the channel one time, man, and pulling up on this afternoon for the Week 8 edition of the Giant Overreaction. Shout out to the homie Elegante in the building one time, man. He said, what up, Awthentik? Dime low. It was not Rich James. I like that. He called him Rich James one time in the building. All right, so we're going to get to this next overreaction one time, man. And this one, we're going to talk a little bit more about the quarterback position. I'm going to try to get y'all out of here in about 30 minutes. We're going to try to keep this cool because I got to keep my eye on this trade deadline. If y'all see any breaking news or anything like that, any big trades, make sure to put that in the chat for me, man, so, I can see that while we're here live, man. It's a big day as far as the trade deadline goes. Definitely going to have to keep our eyes on that for sure. All right, let's get into this next Giant overreaction, y'all. This one's going to be about number 8, the quarterback for the New York Giants, Daniel Jones. This one came from Twitter, y'all. Let me know what y'all are thinking about this one. Let's get some vibes one time. Let me try to bring something back we ain't heard in a little while here for a little bit. All right. Yesterday was another example that 180 yards passing from Daniel Jones is not a viable formula for the future. Giants fans, how y'all feeling about this one? Is this an overreaction? Do you think that Daniel Jones can sustain victories for the New York Giants with about 180 yards? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago and about how Jimmy G seems to be a guy who sustains catching those victories with the San Francisco 49ers and only seems to have about 180 yards passing per game. In this past game, Daniel Jones had 176 yards passing. What y'all think about this one? Y'all gonna take the O for an overreaction? Do you agree with the statement on the screen? If you agree with the statement on the screen, let me see those U's in the chat. And if you need a little bit more time to get your mind right, I'm trying to think whose song that was. I know that's a good hip-hop song, Get Your Mind Right. Oh, yeah, that was Memphis. That was Memphis Bleak on that one with Jay-Z. Yeah, you got to get your mind right one time. If you need to get your mind right for a couple more weeks, you need to take that push. Let me see you push some P's in the chat one time. I'll give y'all a little bit of time to get y'all thoughts together one time. See what y'all talking. Oh, yeah, Jeezy did say that. Okay, no Mets. I see you, fam. Okay, we got them rolling in. Give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second. This beat kind of goes. I ain't heard this one in a minute. All right. Yesterday was another example that 180 yards passing from Daniel Jones is not a viable formula for the future. All right, well, let me give y'all my thoughts on this. I will say this, especially when he's not running the rock. The Giants are definitely going to have to find a way to see more output with this offense. I mean, the wide receiver core is definitely an issue. So going back to what we were talking about with a couple of those super chats earlier and some of the bars that some of y'all were dropping, the Giants, if they don't go make a move on the wide receiver position, how can they expect for Daniel Jones in this offense to be able to generate more than 180 yards? I almost don't know if it's possible, to be honest. But Daniel Jones, they're going to have to find a way to get his legs going and get a little bit more in that running game from Daniel Jones. How many carries did Daniel Jones have in this game? Let me check the box score on that one time. He had 6 carries for 20 yards. I'd like to see that ramped up a little bit, maybe about a good 10. Y'all know with the beard, the whole hashtag and the whole motto with his Washington Commanders has been RTDB, run the damn ball. And the threshold, the number that the beard always wants to see his team get over is 30. The New York Giants had 28 rushes in this game. So if you're not going to get a couple more out of Saquon Barkley, you might have to get a couple of more out of Daniel Jones. Now, the chat is definitely booming on this one time. All right, there's a lot of different opinions on this one, okay? Real People says we could have Saquon Barkley run for like 200. Jay Jean says it's an overreaction. 180 yards can work. It all depends on the coaching scheme, defense, and special teams, the running game. Winning ain't just passing stats. That's definitely for sure. But I think what we got to take into consideration here, Jay Jean, is that when you have the focal point of the offense being a running back, that teams are going to know that going into the game, and that's what the Seattle Seahawks knew in this one. They held Saquon Barkley to just 55 yards on the day, 53 yards on the day. So then what? Because I think that with every game plan that you present in the NFL, you need to have a backup game plan that you're going to pivot to when things go wrong. And I think that's why I said this a little bit earlier. I think that's why Brian Dable and Mike Kafka come out in the beginning of games pretty much every week. They're throwing the ball more in the first half than they are in the second half. Last week's game, they threw the ball one time in the fourth quarter, 7 times in the second half. So they're kind of getting the bad out the way early so that they could keep Saquon up against some, not well-rested defensive players and be able to capitalize on the running game in the second half. So for me, if you're going to rely on defense, special teams, running game, you need another viable option for the offense in the second half. I feel like that's where I'm, or if you're gonna rely on Saquon in the second half, you need another viable option in the first half, because not being able to put up points in the first half is killing the New York Giants, and that's what's keeping all of these games this close, to be honest. But I definitely see where you're coming from, because it can work for sure. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head here with 180 yards can work. You said that it can work. But is it a viable option moving forward to rely on is the question. I think that's where it's, for me, makes it very difficult, where I'm leaning a little bit more towards the push a little bit here. Richard M. is taking the under one time on this one. He agrees with the statement on the screen. Oscar also agrees with the statement on the screen and says eventually we're going to need to pass to win more. Shout out to the homie AJ in the building one time. What's poppin', fam? I hope all is well with you over there, my guy. He says he's taking the overreaction on this one. Bookend is taking the overreaction as well. El Gigante taking the under. Perry Mack says overreaction. The last decent wide receiver he had was Shep. Yeah, I'll say Wan'Dale Robinson's decent as well, too, but I know what you mean by that. Consistent wide receiver for sure is definitely Sterling Shepard. Lou Mateo, in response to Trent Dilfer, somebody said one word up there earlier, Trent Dilfer. I forget who it was. Oh, this is 10. This is a little bit confusing. Trend different 3 for 10 yards a game and won a Super Bowl. Okay, so I'm trying to decipher this a little bit. Okay, I think it's Trent Dilfer threw for 10 yards a game and won a Super Bowl. Yeah, that's real, but he had the best defense he had the best defense known to man. You know what I'm saying? And the crazy part about Trent Dilfer is he's one of the only quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl and not come back to the same team the following year. They were just like, we're going to figure out another way, bro. Got rid of him. And he only played 8 games that year, too. I forget who I think Tony Banks might have played in 2 games, and there was another miscellaneous quarterback on that Ravens team that year, too. Willie Bean is taking the over on this one time, and he says all I have to say is Trent Dilfer. That was the comment that I was looking for. That was in 2000, man. That was 22 years ago. And I know the game is leaning a little bit back towards the running back position, but, man, I don't want Trent Dilfer at quarterback. I do not want Trent Dilfer at quarterback. And I bet he wasn't even averaging 180 yards, for real. I bet he wasn't averaging 180 yards. Shout out to the beard. He said this beat bangs. Ben Dawson is taking the under, agrees with the statement on the screen. JJ Stangel's taking the push on this one. Y'all got me wavering a little bit here. Big Los taking the under, but he doesn't think that DJ is the problem. Excuse me, says he does need help, but I'm in the don't trade camp. Sit pat and build for the future. I like that thought. I like that, man. Standing strong on your opinion. I like that. Pandemonium in the building one time. Appreciate that $5 super chat, my G. The Giants can't sustain with practice squad wide receivers. DJ had an average around 3.5 seconds in the bottom no one got open. That's crazy because 3.5 is a good bit of time to throw the ball. Yeah, and we're getting back to that separation thing. I think that Brian Dable and Mike Kafka have done a really good job of, scheming things open and making it easy with practice squad wide receivers. So my question is, what was the difference this game? We have not banked on our wide receivers getting man-on-man separation all year long. That has not been the vibes of the New York Giants. We've banked on the scheme getting these guys open. I think the running game not working definitely hurt us for sure, because when that running game gets clicking in the second half, that's when you can see Daniel Jones and this offense keep, defenses a little bit at bay and keep them off balance. But in this game, the running game never got clicking. I mean, you're looking at 2-point-something yards per carry. That's not going to get it done. So, yeah, I definitely feel you on this. We're not going to be able to sustain with practice squad wide receivers out there. They got to find a way to get that corrected. Trade deadline coming up, man. Y'all keep me in the loop here in the chat. Maybe the Giants make a move today. Maybe the Giants make a move tomorrow. We'll see. But Pandemonium, I definitely appreciate the $5 super chat and you showing support to this channel, man. That means a lot over here. Let's see what else we got. Juke said DJ need to man up and go to Shane's office and demand for a starting wide receiver. I like that. I definitely like that, man. Definitely got to find a way, and hopefully there is an option out there for wide receiver. I mean, I talked about a couple of them earlier, but none of those guys are going to come in here and be a true number one, and our next overreaction is definitely going to get to that too. So I definitely feel you on this, though, Jukes. I definitely feel you on that. That's real talk, fam. Willie Bean says, it can work. Good defense and proper game manager, limit turnovers is the formula. Yeah, and what I'm trying to think is, like, who is like the best game manager that we've seen, in the past? I talked about Troy Aikman being the best game manager ever, but I don't know if Troy Aikman was really a game manager. Troy Aikman was really doing some things. I mean, I know the touchdowns weren't that high from him and all that. And Lou Mateo's pissed at the spell check on his phone one time. I definitely feel you, fam. That spell check be putting me in some dangerous situations for sure. All right, so I think that we're a little bit split on this one, but I say people are leaning a little bit more towards taking the under on this one. The future, are we talking the near future? Are we talking the future in a couple years? For me, I'm going to say I'm taking the under on this one. Yesterday was another example that 180 yards passing from Daniel Jones is not a viable formula for the future. And Daniel Jones is the feature in this topic here, but I think it speaks more volumes about the wide receiver core. Like, you could get that number higher if Daniel Jones has better wide receivers to throw to, but this is now 3 seasons that we're dealing with Daniel Jones where the touchdowns and the passing output is in struggle mode. So we know that the wide receivers are a problem. It's hard. There are only a certain handful of quarterbacks that are going to be able to get things done, with a caliber wide receiver core like the one that we have. There's really only about maybe not even a handful. It might be like two quarterbacks in the whole entire league that could, maybe push this above 180 yards. But we got to get that number up. Giants, I know they're going back to the drawing board during this bye week trying to figure out things. That wide receiver core is crazy. It's crazy, which is going to take me to the next Giant overreaction here. Let me make sure these are in the right order. And this one came from one of the homies from Stan, one of Stan's homies on Twitter too. So we'll get into this overreaction one time, yo. All right. This one came from Twitter. And I think this is from the homie BBU Giants, Stan. Shout out to your homie. He's always dropping some good takes over there one time. BBU says, there isn't a wide receiver available that's going to fix the New York Giants problem in the passing game. Chat, what y'all thinking about this? Is this an overreaction, or do y'all see a viable option out there for wide receiver? Do y'all see somebody that could come in and really elevate this core? I know we've been talking about the Jerry Judys. We've been talking about the DJ Moores. We've been talking about the Brandon Cooks. Who else we've been talking about? Any other wide receivers out there on the market that you guys might want to bring in? They talked about Terrence Marshall Jr. Man, the NFL, I say across the board, has just taken a hit, man. Like, the NFC is looking like who's going to be the front runner outside of the Philadelphia Eagles? You got teams like the Minnesota Vikings still hanging tight. And then it's just a bunch of teams, that are in, in that middle range, sitting around 500 or just above it, like the New York Giants, sitting at 6-2 there. NFC is definitely taking a hit this year. Not a lot of great play, but what y'all thinking about this? Is this an overreaction? Is there a wide receiver that's going to be able to fix our problems? And when you tell me your answer on this one, if you do take the O for this is an overreaction, what wide receiver is your number one wide receiver that you would want to bring in? I'll give you all a little bit of time to get right, and we'll go over y'all overreactions here in a second. All right, just reading through. All right, right off the bat, we got a ton of overreactions. Sean G, Kansan, Steven Ars with hella exclamation marks one time on him. Big overreaction. Gregory also thinks it's an over, but a good wide receiver would help. So I really think that he's probably taking the under on this one, Gregory, most likely. Willie Bean is taking the overreaction. If you don't think there's a wide receiver out there that can solve this passing game, then you don't think the wide receiver's the problem. Yo, y'all dropping bars today, yo. Y'all are dropping bars out there. Dang, y'all dropping bars out there. That's a major, major bar right there from Willie Bean, 24. If you don't think there's a wide receiver out there that can solve this passing game, then you don't think that wide receiver is the problem. I like that. I am definitely digging that. Shout out to AJ in the building one time. He says it's an overreaction. I trust this staff could coach up Judy or literally anyone. The wide receivers we got now just ain't it. I like that response. Glad you could join us today, AJ. I know you've been missing a couple shows, been busy, man. Definitely appreciate you pulling up, being in the building, man. Hope all is well on your end, bro. And Kansan goes off to explain it just a little bit. Says it's an overreaction. I hate the Jerry Jeudy slander. He was better than Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb, but just got put in a bad spot. Remember who his Alabama OC was. It was Dable. Let him come to New York. Yeah, the slander to Jerry Jeudy has definitely been a bit extreme on Giants Twitter for sure. Like a lot of people bringing up his drops and stuff like that, comparing him to Evan Ingram. And I also saw that CBS Sports was saying Jerry Jeudy has the highest drop rate of any wide receiver drafted since 2020. And I went and I did a little bit of digging through that, and I wanted to look at the wide receivers that had been drafted. And matter of fact, I'm actually going to pull that up because it'd be worthy to go over these different wide receivers that are on that list. Because, man, first-round talent at the wide receiver position has been really, really, really good the past couple of years. So of all the first-round draft picks that have come out in the past 3 seasons, Jerry Jeudy does have the highest drop rate. His catch rate right now is 52%. But these are the other wide receivers that have come out. You got Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Kadarius Toney, Devonta Smith, Rashard Bateman, which looks like we got the worst of that bunch by drafting Kadarius Toney. That's kind of interesting. But Kadarius Toney, as far as a playmaker, he seems like he can hang with all those names up there. You also, in the draft before that, had, or no, I'm sorry, that was so that's all from the 2021 draft. The 2022 draft, you had Drake London, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Jameson Williams, who hasn't really played this year, and Jahan Dotson for the Washington Commanders. And then in 2020, you had Justin Jefferson, Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Reagor, Brandon Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy. Man, I would damn near take any one of those wide receivers on my team. That's great talent right there. So I think that stat from CBS talking about first-round wide receivers and, pretty much trying to shit on Jerry Jeudy because of his drop rate, I think it's a little bit inflated, and it kind of made people go look at the stats more. But you got to use your eyes. Jerry Jeudy been balling out. You cannot forget that he had that big injury just last season, and has been dealing with, a ton of average to below average quarterback play over there. Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, and then this year he's dealing with Russell Wilson, and he's coming off a big game. I know he had at least 1 touchdown this past week. He might have had 2 touchdowns. Of all the names, I do like Jerry Jeudy the most. Cooks could be a guy. I like Brandon Cooks. I used to use Brandon Cooks as the floor for what a number 1 wide receiver is, because a lot of people used to try to say Deshaun Watson didn't have a number 1 wide receiver when he just had Brandon Cooks over there. But I like Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks can produce. A little bit older. Contract is probably going to be a little bit more steep to take on for the New York Giants, which is why I like Jerry Jeudy a little bit more than I like Cooks, but both of them could come over here and produce. I just saw another name in the mix that the Giants could be interested in, a guy like Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas at one point was the best wide receiver in the whole entire league. And that was with Sean Payton. We can't forget that. But I think a wide receiver could help. I wish there was a help in this. Could help fix the Giants' problems with the passing game for sure. A lot of y'all were pretty much reaching to the overreaction here. Chris Peace has a good explanation here too. He's taking the push on this one. If you put a decent wide receiver, bring back a healthy Bellinger, Slayton, Saquon, and Wan'Dale, you can make this offense look less one-dimensional. I do agree with you on that. Wan'Dale could definitely be a piece. It was interesting to see Wan'Dale Robinson not getting a lot of separation and not getting a lot of space in this game. You know, seems like the defense is always on his hip. You know, even the couple catches that he had in this game, they were very tight coverage, in tight windows and whatnot. I do like Wan'Dale. He's got a lot more to prove. We've only seen him now in, 3 games? He's definitely got a lot more to prove. I like Slayton, but the problem comes with depth here. You can't have your depth pieces be guys like what we have on this roster right now, the David Sills of the world, Richie James, and players like that, Marcus Johnson. You got to upgrade your depth because we've seen now for a bunch of seasons in a row, once the Giant starters get banged up, our depth pieces aren't good. I remember the year that we brought in Kyle Rudolph. I think that was before 2021. We brought in Kyle Rudolph, and we brought in John Ross. I felt extremely confident in that wide receiver core. You had just brought in Kenny Golladay on a big #1 contract, you know, #1 wide receiver type contract, the biggest free agent signing of that season as far as wide receivers go. I thought we were going to be in great hands, man, with Kenny Golladay, drafting Kadarius Toney, John Ross out there, Sterling Shepard getting back healthy, and man, a couple guys go down, and then you have the worst wide receiver room in the whole entire NFL. So I want to see them upgrade, you know, some depth pieces there, man. Dante Pettis was a guy that I think of when I think about the depth pieces. I don't know why that didn't really work out. I know drops has been a little bit of thing for him too, but Dante Pettis definitely a little bit of a playmaker. But they're gonna have to find some guys, man. They're gonna have to find some playmakers out here that can, you know, when the first line of defense, you know, for our offense goes down as far as wide receivers, that you got some guys that can step up and still make plays, man. I don't like these injuries being the main reason why the Giants really can't compete and making things difficult for the quarterback for sure. And Steven Arce brings up a good point, too. He says, my thing is trade for Judy and see if Odell will sign for a team-friendly deal this year, then re-sign him in the offseason. You get 2 wide receivers by season end, loaded for the playoffs, Judy and Odell. That sounds like a really good plan, Steven Arce. I like that, actually. And even if it didn't work for the end of the season as far as making a run for the playoffs, going into next season, to have Jerry Judy and Odell with Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton as some depth, now we talking. Now we talking, and we don't know about Odell's, you know, his status with his injuries and how much, you know, explosivity will be left in his game after now blowing out his knee again. We don't know yet, but I do have faith in Odell Beckham. He's a extremely hard worker. I suggest anybody go check out that documentary that he released during his first recovery and rehab for the first knee injury with the Browns. Man, the dude be working his tail off, man. He's definitely a grinder. But this plan right here, that's a good-looking plan right there. You trade for Judy, and you could get Odell back on a team-friendly deal. Even if you got Odell, you sign him this year and get him there for about 2 years. I think that would be a great, great plan moving forward. You could try to get Kenny Golladay up out of there possibly. Or, you know, I think Kenny Golladay might have some left in the tank. It's a possibility, and maybe he would be willing to completely restructure his deal and just completely just turn that all the way around. And then you'd have 3 wide receivers in that room that could really do some damage. But right now, man, the depth pieces aren't good. I like it when Darius Slayton is a depth piece. I think that would work really well. Darius Slayton is best served with the New York Giants as like a number 3, if you ask me. But love these points you made here, Steven Arce. Those are some great points right there. I see somebody talking about trading for Adams. I don't think the Raiders are going to get rid of Adams. I think they're gonna keep that there, even though the Raiders have gotten off to an extremely slow start. Probably the biggest surprise in the NFL is probably the Raiders this year, the Las Vegas Raiders, struggling right now. I think they only got 1 win. Jeremiah Butler talks about Jalen Reagor. I'm not a big fan of Reagor, even though I do want to see Reagor do well. I didn't like how things ended for him in Philadelphia. Not a fan of bringing in Reagor. Not proven. Hasn't really done much in this league. He's struggling, I believe, with the Vikings. They kind of just have him on a punt return kind of type duties. I think it's the Vikings. I might be wrong on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. And yeah, Willie Bean talks about Brandon Cooks. He's owed $18 million next year. That was the number I saw going around on Twitter. That's a big number. And we're trying to just get back out of cap hell. So that would be tough. Jux says, Judy is a beast. Eye test is crazy. I'm right there with you, Jux. 1,000% on that. What else we got over here? So most people kind of think this is an overreaction because we know we need a wide receiver out here. Willie Bean saying we should have re-signed Ross. I liked Ross, big playmaker. Has the speed. I liked his route running. He's a pretty decent wide receiver. He could be another good depth piece as well. Dave Gettleman overpaid him. He definitely overpaid him. I think, what they give him, like $2 million or something for the year, something like that. I thought he overpaid him. You got to bring – Ross has not proven nothing except he's just a fast mug. That's it. He's just fast. That's it. Hasn't really proven much. Chris Peace agreeing with Stephen Arce 100. Yeah, love Stephen Arce's point on that, man. Bringing in Odell Beckham and Jerry Jeudy, I'm going right to Twitter with that, bro. I'm going to give you your props on that, but I'm going to Twitter with that for sure. And just trying to catch up here. Shout out No Mets, No Nets, No Jets one time in the building for that $4.99 super chat, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support for the channel. That's major for us. You a day one, man. Your presence means everything over here, my dude. Definitely been holding us down for some years now. He says going back to Odell is like going back to an ex. You just don't do it. Like and sub and ring that bell. Man, going back to Odell is like going back to that ex that you let get away. You know, like that's like she was fire, bro. She was fire. And, you just had to part ways. It's like going back to your ex that dumped you, even though we got rid of Odell Beckham. We ain't going to sit here and claim that. Most Giants fans did not want Odell Beckham to be traded, and that was a big surprise, man, from Dave Gettleman. But the thing is, for me, right, I would bring back Odell Beckham underneath only the exact circumstance that Stephen Arce just drew up there. You got to bring in a guy like Jerry Jeudy so you got some, fallback a little bit in case Odell Beckham is not quite the wide receiver that he once was. But having those two, I think that could really work out. I really think that could work out well. And I'm on record already saying that the Giants shouldn't have brought back Odell Beckham. But when Stephen Arce said that, you pair him with Jerry Jeudy, and then you keep what's good or what's left of this Giants wide receiver core going into next year, man, that could be very scary, man. But shout out to No Mets, No Nets, No Jets, man. Definitely appreciate you rocking with us, man, and appreciate that $4.99 super chat, too. Yams is in the house one time from Japan. What's going on, Yam? Hope all is well. Morning, dude. It's morning over there for you, huh? Even as Washington fans, sorry you guys dropped one. I just want someone to step up to the Eagles. Yeah, man. We was right there, and I think this one kind of brought us back down to earth. And, the Eagles might be in a different class than the New York Giants, until proven otherwise for the New York Giants here. And we got a couple of, winnable games coming out of that bye, so we'll see if we can get back on track. But definitely appreciate you pulling up, fam. Let's see. Yeah, and Willie Bean talked about the $1 million. I believe that was for John Ross. I think that was for John Ross, which, I thought was like, dude hasn't done nothing, man. He just drafted high, and that's about it. Sean G in the building says, yo, Awthentik, what do you think the percent of us actually going through and getting a wide receiver by the deadline? I'm going to say, I'll put an exact percent on it, too. I'm going to say 28%. I think there's a 28% chance because, man, the Giants have, we've definitely overexceeded expectations this year. So I think it could go either way, but I wouldn't quite call it a coin toss at this point. I think that, there's a good chance that the Giants just sit tight and continue to rebuild. They know right now whether or not they're completely invested in Daniel Jones, and they know where the gauge sits and, where that needle is at right now as far as Daniel Jones goes. And I think you got to figure that out. That's the number one thing to figure out, which, myself included and a lot of Giants fans feel great about the way Daniel Jones has played for the first 8 weeks of the NFL season, and definitely wouldn't mind Daniel Jones coming back as the quarterback, but I also trust this coaching regime to make the right decision. If they feel like they don't got their guy, only they know what's going on behind the scenes and what limitations maybe Daniel Jones presents for this offense. We'll see moving forward, man. For me, I think I got to take a bit of a push on it, like I kind of got to wait to see what they do with Daniel, and it's just not going to surprise me if they don't make a move on a wide receiver. And it's New York, man. You know how we are. We've normally been a pretty conservative ball club, so I just don't see us going out there making a move unless they get the right opportunity and the right deal on a wide receiver. I'm hoping it's Jerry Jeudy if it is somebody. But shout out to Sean G for bringing that up, man. I'm glad I saw that question. Let me see here. Oh, yeah. Lou, you already know. Sill's definitely giving up that number 13 if OBJ come back. That's a fact. You already know. Definitely, that's a fact. All right, I'm just scrolling down, getting a little bit caught up, and we're going to take it to this next overreaction one time. Elegante says we only have $3+ million in operational cap space. Yeah, we'll see what they can do to get, some more money on the books, man. I'm not the one that's counting pockets ever, man. But I also don't try to keep too much track on salary cap stuff because, and I'll tell you, it's because of Kid Blue. I remember this last season. Kid Blue did some deep research, deep diving into the contracts, broke it all down about why we couldn't sign a guy like Adoree Jackson, and literally like 2 days later, Dave Gettleman figured out a way, restructured a bunch of stuff, and Adoree Jackson was a New York Giant. I'm glad that worked out like that, too. Trying to see what Steven Arce is saying here about DJ Moore. Has he won a game for them if the kicker didn't miss 2 kicks? Yep, Judy, I can see. He may be a number 2 a number 1, but he outplayed Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, man, I like Jerry Jeudy. I think he's right on that cusp of a number 1. And he makes big plays, man. You got to respect him. That's what I like about Jerry Jeudy. He's not some wide receiver that you're going to be able to just, throw a man out there on and not worry about him the entire game. He demands respect, and I think he could present some big plays for this New York Giants offense. Shout out to John B. in the building, man. You're going on, fam. Hope all is well. All right, let's get to this next Giant overreaction. I got one more. Definitely got one more for y'all. I might present an old one from last week. Depending how the vibes go. We'll see how this one goes. But let's get into this this next overreaction. Y'all gonna like this one. Y'all gonna like this one. Geno Smith is not better than Daniel Jones. He just has better weapons. Chat, let me know what y'all think about this one. Do y'all think at this moment in time Geno Smith is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones? Or is it simply that he just has the weapons and Daniel Jones can do the things that Geno Smith does and even better? What do y'all think about this one, man? We'll let something rock out one time and see y'all opinions on this overreaction, or if y'all going to be taking the under and agree with the statement on the screen. Let me know what y'all think one time. Let me keep my eyes on the chat. I already see him rolling in. El Gigante right off the bat taking a push for him one time. He need a little more time to see what his man Daniel Jones can do. See if Geno Smith's going to fall off a little bit of a cliff one time. Definitely respect that one time. Gregory's taking the under on this one. He agrees with the statement that Geno Smith is not better than Daniel Jones one time. Let me see. Michael Knight in the building one time. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well over there. He says he agrees with the statement on the screen. Geno Smith is not better than Daniel Jones at this present time. He just has better weapons on the field. Who else we got up in here? Mr. Mini Guy agrees with the statement on the screen. He's taking the under. It comes down to experience. Geno been in the league longer. You bring up a good point. I'm definitely going to talk about that a little bit when I give y'all my opinion on this one. Let me see. Lou Mateo says, F Geno, homie said, I want to thank Ben McAdoo and Jerry Reese for giving him a chance. Yeah, I actually like that. I didn't think that made him clown worthy, actually. I thought that was, the Seattle Seahawks in that press conference were throwing a lot of subs. They were throwing a lot of subliminals. And I think the reason why, you notice he didn't mention no Dave Gettleman, no none of that vibe, right? He literally talked about the guy who gave him a shot. He said he wanted to thank them for giving him his shot. I like that. And a lot of people didn't want to talk about the turmoil that was going on in the locker room during that time. And that was the year that Odell Beckham came out and had the comments in the Lil Wayne interview about Eli Manning. So you got to take all this into consideration, man. I think actually it was the year before. I stand corrected. It was the year before actually where Odell Beckham said that stuff about Eli Manning. That was 2016. And in 2017 they ended up benching Eli Manning. But I like Geno Smith. Geno Smith is a real stand-up dude. He reminded me of Jacoby Brissett in the press conference after they got the win on Thursday night with the Browns. Just seemed like a good dude. He said, football is not what defines me or who I am. He said it's my job. Man, boy, I love that answer. I love that answer right there because y'all know all too well that's what we do. We lump people up and we like to say, oh, this is who he is. He's the quarterback for the Seahawks. But I don't think it's clown behavior what Geno Smith said in that press conference. I think he was kind of trying to like deflect some of the drama that was brought to Jerry Reese's way. Jerry Reese did some good things for the New York Giants, man, and brought in some good players. Believe he won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants, you know. And then when we brought in Gettleman, everybody wanted to shit on Jerry Reese, you know, and talk about some of the picks, you know, the recent picks that he was struggling with, Evan Ingram being one of them. You know, Jerry Reese was out there trying to get them offensive players for sure, and nobody throws the Dallas Cowboys under the bus for doing the exact same thing. Cowboys bring in a bunch of offensive talent. They don't even care if they need a wide receiver. They bring in offensive talent every year. But respect your opinion, Lou. You know, I definitely respect your opinion, Lou Mateo, for sure. You already know what it is. And James Earl Mones is in the building one time, taking the under. He's a better, more seasoned quarterback right now than DJ. Okay, so this would be taking the overreaction, actually. He thinks the statement on the screen is an overreaction, but that he's a better quarterback right now. Geno Smith is better. Let me see. The homie Zuhab Ahmed says, you got to get me on this, bro. Authentic and fair enough, bro. Yeah, I promise y'all that before the season ends, we'll do a Giant Overreaction edition where it's strictly just y'all calling in straight up. And I'm going to only do people that we've seen in the chat, you know, before. So if you are one of those people, make sure you make yourself present in the chat, because I can't be playing no games with the way these jokers be doing on the internet. You know, I've seen some crazy stuff on people's live streams when they do call-in shows. We definitely can't have that happening. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets. Keeping it funky here one time. It's taking an overreaction. Eye test, Geno looks better. He's more experienced right now. He's playing better. Almost want to keep that up. That's a good statement. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets, for sure. John B's taking the push on this one. Yup, James Earl Moan says he meant the over, for sure. John B says he needs to see Danny with a full set of weapons. Man, we've been waiting on that. 4 years we've been waiting for Daniel Jones with a full set of weapons. Golly, man, it's crazy that they can't just get that fixed. It reminds me of Dave Gettleman's problem with the offensive line. Like, day one, Dave Gettleman shows up, first press conference. All he's talking about is, man, the hog mollies. We got to get this offensive line repaired. We're going to bring in hog mollies, blah, 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 blah. And the whole time he was here, they never got that offensive line corrected or fixed. And we're still reaping from that till this day. We drafted first-round talent in Evan Neal. He's hurt now. That definitely made this offensive line take a step back. You got to have these depth pieces. I'll never forget it. When the Cincinnati Bengals, last year, middle of the season, they lost their left tackle for about 4 or 5 games. And this left tackle, undrafted, free agent. Last name was Cunningham, I believe. I forget his first name. But he came in, man. He played a solid game. No pressure from his side. You got to be able to find those gems. And the New York Giants are still trying to do that. But it reminds me, like, now it's the wide receiver core. The wide receiver core, we can't get right. We spent all that money on Galladay. We drafted Kadarius Toney. We drafted Wan'Dale Robinson. Years before, you bring in Ross. You bringing in all these different talents. You tried it with, what's my man name? Golden Tate, you know? You tried it with all these different wide receivers. You brought in Kyle Rudolph to try to help the red zone problems. And nothing is working. This pass attack looks awful. It's looked awful all season long. The wins have been making us keep our eyes off it, you know, and trying to ignore the big elephant in the room that the New York Giants can't really throw the ball. We've had like 1 or 2 games where the pass attack looked fairly decent. The Packers game was one of them, which is crazy because the Packers have one of the best pass defenses in the whole entire NFL. I think they have the #1 pass defense in the NFL right now. So, I mean, it's interesting that was the game where we decided to be able to find a way to make it work. And I think we got a little bit used to, you know, Kafka and Brian Dable scheming things up and it actually working. And in this game, it just didn't work. Seahawks did their, you know, their homework, came out and found a way to stop, you know, the Giants from passing the ball. And they put an emphasis on stopping the run. Saquon Barkley was relatively, you know, not there in this game. He's pretty much invisible in this game, man. He didn't break the runs that we're used to seeing him break. And, you know, it was unfortunate that we had to watch Geno Smith go out here and really make some plays all day long. All day long, Geno Smith was making plays, even when his wide receiver core or his weapons, as we'll say in this statement here, was struggling and dropping passes left and right. Goodwin has that big drop in the end zone where Adoree Jackson's in coverage. Tyler Lockett has the drop in the end zone, and then he has the one where he can't get his feet down. Plenty of mistakes from the Seattle Seahawks, but the one rock that stayed solid for the Seattle Seahawks was Geno Smith. I mean, Geno Smith definitely balled out in this game. I'm happy to see Geno Smith excelling in this league. And I saw that Dan Schneider talked about this 3 weeks ago. He said You know what? No, it wasn't. It was like, I think it was actually like 2 weeks ago because the Giants were like 5-1 or 6-1. But he said that Geno Smith, the story of Geno Smith is the biggest story in the NFL right now. And I was like, well, what about the Giants sitting at 5-1 or 6-1 or whatever? He was like, that's great for Giants fans. But as far as the league goes, the Geno Smith, story is a bigger story. And I kind of gave him some pushback on that. But now, after seeing it, firsthand, Geno Smith going up against them New York Giants and handling business, I take it all back. I do think that Geno Smith is the biggest story now because, you can't forget the Giants have won. All of their games have been won by less than a score, less than a touchdown. Geno Smith is out here wheeling and dealing. Straight up wheeling and dealing, and he's doing a damn good job of it on a team that most people thought were going to be the worst team in the NFL. When I looked at all the games on our schedule, I looked at Seattle, and I was like, that's probably the game that I think we could win the most, them or the Houston Texans. And now we're 8 weeks in, and things look a lot different. Geno Smith, for me right now, he's a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. Y'all know me. I ain't going to tiptoe around nothing. I'm going to just keep it funky with you. Geno Smith is a better quarterback. Now, he did get to sit for like 10 years, man. He's a savvy veteran now at this point. He's learned a lot. He has sat the bench in a lot of locker rooms, bounced around the league, and now he's definitely found his way. And I almost wanted to bring up this tweet on the screen that I talked about with Entertainer on Twitter, like back in August. I told Entertainer this. I said, Geno can be a decent quarterback. Filling in last year while Wilson was hurt, Geno posted a passer rating of 103 in 4 games. And I said, watch him surprise people if he can stay healthy. People act like Geno is the reason, or I said people act like Geno actually benched Eli Manning, and that's why a lot of New York Giants fans don't really get down with Geno Smith. Entertainer responded to that one, and I don't mean to put Entertainer on blast or nothing. I think this was the opinion of a lot of people. That's why I wanted to bring it up. And I forget who I saw that was talking about the 4 games from Geno Smith last season where he had the 103 passer rating in all 4 games. But it really brought it to my attention. Like, wow, Geno is playing some decent football. But Tanner responded to that. He said, I have no issues with Geno Smith at all. I liked him coming out of West Virginia. I just believe that Seattle didn't, let's say, go out of their way to get the best quarterback available because they're tanking without saying it. This is the perception that most people had coming into the year on the Seattle Seahawks. And now, 8 weeks in, people are looking at Geno Smith. I heard them talking about him today on the Get Up as a MVP candidate. They said Josh Allen, they say Patrick Mahomes, and then they said Geno Smith. So we cannot deny that this guy is playing fantastic football. Now, he has the #1 completion percentage in the entire NFL at 72.7. To have gone through 8 games and have a 72.7 completion percentage is actually kind of ridiculous. Geno Smith is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. There's only one quarterback right now with less than 10% of his throws being off target. It's Geno Smith. Even when he missed in some of these games, did you see the one-handed one that DK Metcalf tried to bring in the first half? The pass was perfect, man. It's only where his guy can get it. For me right now, Geno Smith, he's got almost 2,000 yards on the season already. He's sitting at 1,924. He's got 13 touchdowns and 3 interceptions when they were struggling. You cannot forget that the Seattle Seahawks were struggling to find their running identity throughout like the first 5 to 6 weeks of the football season. Rashard Penny had that one big game. Shout out to the Beard who was saying he's going to put him in his lineup. He had that one big game of 100 yards, and then he ended up getting hurt. And now Kenneth Walker, you're seeing the emergence of Kenneth Walker coming out here, who's showing people that he can be pretty much an every down running back in Seattle. Geno Smith, man, I know he's got the 2 studs as far as wide receiver goes with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, but I don't think the weapons is really the real reason. I just think Geno Smith's a better quarterback than Daniel Jones right now. Clip it up, chop it up, do what you do with it. Write it down, take a picture. I don't give a damn. All right, I do think that Geno Smith should be a better quarterback than Daniel Jones at this point. Daniel Jones has dealt with probably the worst case scenario you could possibly have at the quarterback position without being removed from it, because let's keep it funky. In 4 years of football, if you playing ball like how Daniel Jones played ball his first 3 years, usually you're not going to even get to see that 4th year. But it's a blessing that we got to see Daniel Jones come out here in his 4th year. And with another now coaching staff out here trying to get the best out of Daniel Jones with limited wide receiver potential out there. I won't just dismiss that Daniel Jones is strapped for weapons at the wide receiver position, but let's just keep it funky, man. Let's just call a spade a spade. Geno Smith is the better quarterback right now, and he's super humble. He's super humble. That's what I like about Geno. And it's so wild that he was just a New York Giant. Like, it's really wild because it goes to show you that you don't know what's happening in these locker rooms, man. You really just don't know. Geno Smith right now is a top 10 quarterback. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. He's a top 10 quarterback. Sat the bench for a long time. The dude has a little bit of running capabilities, and I think that he's doing everything he has to do to keep the Seattle Seahawks in position right now, sitting at 5-3, man. They're definitely going to make a run for the playoffs, which is crazy. I did not – you think that they lose Russell Wilson? You talk about overvaluing quarterbacks, myself included. I completely overvalued Russell Wilson. I thought he was a guy that we should have made a move on possibly. I thought that, you bring in a quarterback like that, it's going to upgrade everybody around him. Not the case. So to answer that one, I definitely think that this is an overreaction, that Geno Smith is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones today. Shout out to the homie one time. Tuto in the building, my guy. For the $4.99 super chat, he says, massive salute to Awthentik, and for all Giants fans around the world, slap all stinky Boyds. You hear that, Beard? Boyds, losers out the front door, and F all Houston losers. Yeah, we definitely got to go take on them Houston Texans coming out of the bye. Hopefully we can smoke on some pack, man. Shout out to you too, though, man. We don't go one show without you pulling up and showing some support for us, man. So that goes a long way, brother. Salute to you, man. Not a salute to Awthentik. A massive salute to my man Tudo, and salute Italy. Can't go without saying that. Shout out to the homie one time. Afghan's in the building. Shout out to Afghan, man. What's going on, fam? He says, Golden Tate was awful his first year here. He was just older when we got him and was done by the time we released him. I don't know about awful. I want to say Golden Tate led us in receiving yards that first year. They struggled. That whole regime just struggled to get Golden Tate the ball. Don't forget he was coming off of a 1,000-yard season with two teams. I believe he was with Detroit and with Philly. Split that year, about half and half. He had 1,000 yards that season. I thought Golden Tate was a pretty decent wide receiver, but coming in here trying to fill the shoes of an Odell Beckham, not the vibes. But shout out to Afghan for pulling up in the building. That's another one of my day ones, man. Y'all know what it is. All right, let me just scroll down here because we had a lot to talk about there on that one with the Geno Smith is not better than Daniel Jones one time. I just want to catch up to y'all. Caden Wade said, Awthentik, chill, man, chill. Shout out to Caden Wade one time in the building, man. Jameson's in the building. Wasn't awful is what my man Afghan said. I thought Tate was good his first year. Yeah, I thought he was too. I thought he was pretty good his first year as well. All right, so we got one more, and I'm going to get y'all up out of here. Shout out to all of y'all in the building, man. We was a little bit late here today running the overreaction at 3 p.m. Got about 80 in the building one time right now, man. I definitely appreciate all of y'all. Big salute to everybody in Giants Nation one time, man. The Giants gang is definitely in the building. Y'all know we can't do these shows without y'all. I just want to revisit this one. Y'all know I like to talk about the quarterback position a lot, man. And I just want to revisit this one. And we don't got to go overreaction or not. But what I want y'all to do here is I want y'all to post y'all reasoning why you think the reasons are for why the Giants are winning. I want y'all to post that. And I want to say that it wasn't that clip, but just for risk of that being the wrong clip, I'm not going to air that one. I want to talk about this one we talked about just a couple of shows ago. The Giants are 6-1 because of Brian Dable, Saquon Barkley, and their defense. And I talked about this a little bit earlier on in the show. I'm going to keep my eyes on the chat real heavy here. I want to know y'all hierarchy. Go 1 through 4. Let's go 1 through 4, 1 through 5-ish kind of, right? Of why the Giants are winning their games. And I know that's not a very important thing, but, we like to harp on the details over here at Awthentik and the Beard. So I want to know what y'all think about that. For me, I'm going to start with Wink Martindale and the defense. In Week 8 right now, I think that Wink Martindale and this defense are the number one reason why the Giants are winning games. Number 2, I'm going to go with the rest of the coaches. I'm going to say Brian Dable, Mike Kafka. Number 3, I'm going to go Saquon Barkley. And number 4, I'm going to say, I'm going to go unsung here. I'm going to go 2. I'm going to go two players in one lump. I'm going to go Daniel Jones and Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas has been a wall this season, and it's almost like, this is what a left tackle should do for the quarterback position. You should be able to think about your blind side and not have to think about it at all. And that's what Daniel Jones does. He doesn't even got to worry about what's going on over there on the left side. So I gotta put my man Andrew Thomas up there with Daniel Jones as well. But I want to know what y'all think. I'm going to give y'all a little bit of time on this one, but I want to know what y'all think. And if you think this is still an overreaction or an underreaction, you can answer that too. And I want to have a little bit of a discussion about that. Shout out to Sean G, man, the first one in the building talking about this. He says, 1, the players are more bought into the staff and want to play for each other. Facts. 2, the defense. 3, the coaching. 4, Saquon. So he don't even got the quarterback up on this list one time. You could lump him into the number 1 there a little bit with the players are more bought into the staff and want to play for each other. But that's real. I like this assessment right here, Sean G. Appreciate you joining the discussion, my brother. Yeah, I know that's right, James Earl Moans. Even yesterday watching Thomas Pancake Guys was awesome, most definitely. Chris P showing up. He says 1, Dable and Kafka. 2, Wink in the defense. 3, Saquon. 4, capitalizing on other teams' mistakes. Another one that's not listing the quarterback is one of the main reasons why we're winning games. Respect to you, Chris Peace. I respect that opinion right there. I like this order you got right here. Jordan M says Orlovsky is a clown. Nah, I don't agree with you on that. He's just sticking to his guns, man. He's sticking to his guns about Daniel Jones. And Giants fans, y'all know what it is, man. We were critical about Daniel Jones as well, but he's came out this year and proved a lot of people wrong. And isn't this what most people call people clowns for anyway on the internet, Jordan? When they switch their opinions, I see that a lot. When Colin Cowherd switches his opinion on Daniel Jones, he's a clown. He has no spine, and people are liable to change their opinions. But I do respect Dan Orlovsky, man. He does a fantastic job breaking down plays. And yeah, he wasn't one of the best quarterbacks ever, but I respect the value that he brings to the content creation community. You're not always going to be right. You're not always going to be right, but I don't condone that type of behavior, Jordan. People got different opinions, man, and I don't think nobody's a clown for their opinion. I don't think if it's something else, maybe, but I don't think nobody's a clown for their opinion. But shout out to you, Jordan. That's your opinion, and I ain't gonna look at you no other way because of that. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to you one time for pulling up in the building. Definitely appreciate you rocking with us. Nick the Wick is in the building. I see Tudo talking about Nick the Wick one time. Got to shout out my guy, Nick the Wick. Sabrina's in the building too. How you doing, Sabrina? Hope all is well on this Monday afternoon. Sabrina says coaching, Saquon, defense, Daniel Jones coming up in the 4th slot there. I respect that. I like that opinion. That's very much like how I got it right there. I kind of got Saquon as the 3rd. Kind of feeling a little bit low about Saquon, I guess, just after that low output this past week against the Seattle Seahawks one time. Who else we got up in here? Following the rules? Ooh, Perry Max got an interesting one here. Coaching, McKinney, and Saquon Barkley. I like that. Say. I like that. Yeah, for me, I think that the coaching is definitely going to be most people's priority on this one. But, yeah, I mean, I think we got to find a way to put Daniel Jones in a better position. If we're going to put the coaching at the top, well, the coaching has to find a way to continuously put the quarterback in a good position. And with this wide receiver core this past week, they didn't do their job. So I know that people's rankings are kind of going to change a little bit there with the way that things went this past week. Shout out to Gregory one time in the building. Gregory says number 1, defense. Number 2, time of possession, which you could give a little bit of the coaching to as well. Number 3, Barkley. Number 4, Saquon. I like that. I don't know if you made a mistake there, Gregory, but I like that. Number 3, Barkley. Number 4, Saquon. Number 5, coaching. Maybe he's got Daniel Jones somewhere in the mix there, but if that's not a typo, I like that. I like that as well. That's what's up, fam. Appreciate you joining the discussion today, Gregory. And I thought I had one more while I look for that. Oh, yeah, right here. Elegante one time in the building. Another one who talks about the team buying into the coaching scheme. Number 2 is Dable and Wink are mirror images of each other. That's facts right there. So we got coaching at number 2. Saquon at number 3. 4, a little bit of luck on closing games out. Wow. Okay, little bit of luck. Shout out to Elegante one time in the building. Salute to you, fam. Appreciate you rocking with us, fam. All right, let me see if we got any more. Shout out to Tudo one time. You know I got to highlight my man Tudo one time. Look at them abs. Tudo out here flexing on them. I ain't worried about the critics at all. Never. The more the critics, the stronger and more solid I become. I respect everyone's opinions. That's what's up, Tudo. Salute to you, fam. Salute to you. Let me see what Chris P says. I already know this is about to be a bar, Chris. I know it. I just know it. He says, if you stick to your opinions, even when faced with new evidence, it devalues your credibility, which is why I take Orlovsky's opinions with a grain of salt. Even Joy Taylor has changed her opinion. Joy Taylor had a crazy opinion. I know she's a Miami Dolphins fan, but she was talking about, is it time for us to start saying that Tua is better than Justin Herbert? I was like, I don't know about that one. Now, I think with Dan Orlovsky on Daniel Jones, he has been presented the evidence, right? Which shows that Daniel Jones is playing some winning football. But I'm skeptical myself, Chris Peace. I ain't gonna lie. I don't particularly enjoy winning like this. I enjoy winning. A win is a win is a win. I don't care, right? I want to get the dubs all day long. I want the wins, right? But when you talk about assessing the quarterback position, it's been extremely difficult this year, even while Daniel Jones is playing good football. The part that scares me the most is we're 8 games in, dead halfway through the season pretty much, and our quarterback has 6 passing touchdowns. That does worry me. Now, when you look back at the previous couple of years, let's pull up Daniel Jones' stats from the previous couple of years. Yeah, I know he hasn't breached 12 touchdowns in the past 2 seasons before this one, but I want to get some exact numbers here so I'm not paraphrasing and winging it. Now, and seeing the passer rating is even more worrisome. Right now, Daniel Jones' career passer rating is 84.8. And this season, he's at 88. It's his best passer rating of his entire career. His career completion percentage is 63%. He's at 65% this year. It's his best completion percentage in his entire career. Throughout his career, he came into the league as a rookie, had the 24 touchdowns. We know that a lot of that was a bit inflated by 3 games that Daniel Jones had. 1 5-game touchdown game, or 1 5-touchdown game against the Washington Commanders. He had the 2 4-touchdown games against the Detroit Lions, and then one against the New York Jets. But it's very concerning that under Garrett and Judge in 2020, 80 passer rating, 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. The second year with Judge and Garrett, 84.8 passer rating, which is literally what he is at for his career, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I'm concerned. I will say that. I'll just address that I'm concerned. Because what if the New York Giants were losing some of these close games? Does our opinion on Daniel Jones change a little bit? I know everybody wanted to go, sending those messages out about Daniel Jones leading the NFL with the game-winning drives. He had 5, I believe it was, before this game, right? But when you use your 2 eyes, do you see a team that is led by Daniel Jones at the end of games to win the game? Or is that just a deficiency kind of in the stat that we get the last touchdown and we get the wins? And I'm just asking these questions because I'm asking them to myself. Like, is Daniel Jones' stat line tricking me a little bit? Is he still the same guy we saw the first 3 years? And possibly, just possibly, maybe this coaching staff is just winning some close games? And we know that. We know this. We know this for sure, Marjorie. Shout out to Marjorie, always dropping those bombs one time. He needs a better wide receiver core. We know that. We definitely know that. We definitely know that, right? Doesn't Davis Mills, I always get those 2 names mixed up. Davis Mills probably needs a better wide receiver core as well. But I don't even know his numbers, but I know it can't be 6-2. I'm just a little bit concerned. He's at 8-6 on a year, but he has 3 games where he's thrown for multiple touchdowns in the game. And y'all know that was my thing last year. Last year was all about, man, Daniel Jones, you need more touchdowns. I can go back and look at a bunch of half-hearted tweets that I had where I was like, Geno Smith has more passing touchdowns than Daniel Jones. Taylor Heineke has more passing touchdowns than Daniel Jones this year. So I'm just concerned. That's all I'll say. I'm back at that point where it's like, is he the guy again? Because when things go wrong is when you got to really look at a team and really assess the players. And I know a lot of people are split on this. Shout out to my homie Stan. I see Stan in the chat one time. Let me bring this up. He says, why some Giants like myself can acknowledge Jones has played better, but I still think it's time to move on because we've seen scenarios like Alex Smith, Jimmy G, and even Tannehill on a leash. Yeah, and seeing Malik Willis get play, start that game with the Titans against, I believe it was the Texans this past week, you start to see that Titans offense is extremely strapped, and they're one-dimensional. It reminds me of where we could be. I'm glad you brought this up, Stan. It's where we could be if we continue to rely on Saquon Barkley to win games. Because they got no weapons at wide receiver. None. They got Robert Woods out there, shell of himself, still trying to do things, trying to get back, after the big knee injury he had. And then Treylon Burks, who, he's a rookie, got to give him some time to develop. But when teams start keying in on Derrick Henry, the Titans struggle to find ways to win. And I think the same thing goes for the New York Giants. Like, once these teams start keying in on Saquon Barkley, and when you figure out how to stop him, then what? And I know I'm assessing this with the wide receiver core, trying to envision Daniel Jones with a good wide receiver core. I don't think that a good wide receiver core is necessarily going to get you guys the separation that you want. Like, it's tough. I'd love to see it. But Kenny Golladay was a guy. And I don't know why did that not work with Daniel Jones? It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And I think that's the one thing where the verdict is not out yet, is how much of this passing offense struggling is going to rely on, or is going to be pinned on Daniel Jones at the end of the day. Yeah, he doesn't have the wide receivers. We know that. He definitely does not have the wide receivers. I also want to look at Justin Fields, because Justin Fields has been struggling this year too, and see how many passing touchdowns he has. Justin Fields has 7 passing touchdowns on the year, so just one more than Daniel Jones. So that's just proof that you got to get some talent around the kid. But I still do have a question mark. The Giants are 6-1 because of Brian Dable, Saquon Barkley, and their defense. Just the same way that I started off the show saying that we didn't solely lose the game because of Richie James. I don't think that you can exclude Daniel Jones as a reason for why the New York Giants are winning games. He's made some plays. He's definitely made some plays. Now, I won't be a hypocrite here. Shout out to Marquise Faison one time in the building, who says the number one reason the New York Giants are winning games is Daniel Jones. 2 is the quad father. 3 is coaching. And 4, the team is all, I would imagine I would say that the team is all in. I can't agree with you that Daniel Jones is the number one reason, or that Saquon is the number. This is what I can't agree with you on. I can't agree with you that you have the coaching behind Saquon and Danny Dimes. I can't agree with you, because we saw that last season. I know Saquon Barkley's coming off the knee injury last season and whatnot. I don't think we can put those 2 things above the coaching. The running game has become a real thing, and the coaching has brought that out of Daniel Jones this year, I feel like. We ran a ton of RPO last year and a lot of read option last year, and that wasn't working out for us. The wins, I think the wins are so important as to why we're a bit skewed of why we're winning. It's starting to feel a lot like last year. But shout out to Marquise one time. Marquise Faison in the building. Appreciate you pulling up. Davis Mills throwing 6 interceptions already this year. Yeah, and the Texans are a bad team. They're a bad team. And they don't got the kind of coaching we got. That's for damn sure. And Davis Mills is struggling. Like, last year was having a better year. This year, you're starting to see the deficiencies on that offense starting to come to life. And, yeah, they're bad. They're really bad. Struggling. Their running back was doing good, though. Damian Pierce was doing pretty good early on in the years fantasy-wise, but they can't bank on that to win games. But Yeah, I'm just seeing some old Benny's in the building. Shout out to Benny one time. Big win for y'all Commanders yesterday, Benny. Appreciate you pulling up, man. He says, number 1 is Dable the Bull. Number 2, Saquon Barkley. Number 3, defense. And 4, players believing in each other. Yeah, and the coaching brought that out of him, man. Shout out to Benny one time, man. Commanders fan. That's my bro right there, man. Salute to you. All right, no Mets, no Nets, no Jets. Got to run. Says, peace out, man. Shout out to the fam one time. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. We're going to wrap this up here in a second, too, man. I appreciate you pulling up, No Mets. And that super chat earlier, man, that goes a long way, man. Definitely appreciate you supporting the channel. Enjoy the rest of your day, my guy. Until next time. Yeah, man, I think we can put the button on this one. Steven Arce, I'll give you the last one on here. He says, coaching number 1, Saquon number 2. Number 3, defense. Number 4, Joe Shane. Joe, got to talk about Joe Shane. And number 5, Daniel Jones and the offensive line. That's facts right there. Shout out to Sean G one time. He says, Awthentik, we're doing great this season, but it is time to hit the panic button if we lose to the Texans out of the bye. Right there with you. I hope they can just hit that panic button now and just start correcting these mistakes, man. I think we got by. We got by a little bit, you know? And I talked about the Commanders getting a little bit lucky against the Bears, and I will admit where I think the New York Giants have gotten a little bit lucky. We've gotten a little bit lucky in some of these wins, man. We've definitely gotten a little bit lucky. You need a little bit of luck in football. And I think we got to just go back to the drawing board, assess the issues now, act as if it's panic time right now, and just start correcting these things. The trade deadline is here. So if you need to make a move, go make a move. I'm going to be keeping my eyes all over that trade deadline today and tomorrow. Hopefully the Giants can at least figure out a move for the future, whether it be make a move and get somebody in here or not make the move. At least it just benefits us moving forward. So we'll see. I'm going to keep my eyes on things for the rest of the day here. Definitely appreciate all of y'all rocking with me today, man. The fam was in the building. Y'all know how it is after a loss. After a W, things is all peachy, man. You know, high fives and all of that. After a loss, man, for y'all to show up and show out today, that definitely means a lot to me, man. I was super busy last night, and I got to get working on some edits today. I'm editing this sizzle reel for artists from around the way, Maserati Black. Shout out to Maserati Black. He's got an album coming out, and he's got a one of the songs that I mixed is a single on all platforms right now. So if you do want to support some of the artists that I rock with, Maserati Black, the single is called TTYL. Super dope song, mixed and mastered by me right here at All or Nothing Studios. Definitely check him out, man. And had to start a little bit late because we were just out super late. Marjorie says, go Giants, make that move. That's a bomb right there. Damn near spilled my drink trying to get the bomb on Marjorie one time. Shout out to Marjorie. Appreciate you pulling up and rocking with us here towards the end of the show. And shout out to Jordan, too. He says, appreciate the stream. Got me through the commute home. Checked out some of y'all stuff on Spotify earlier. Oh, that's what's up, man. Yeah, that's all the stuff you see on Spotify is a portion of my catalog. I got 10 albums I've put out. OG in this game, man. Definitely doing some real hip-hop. Definitely appreciate you supporting the vibes on Spotify. Yeah, running them streams up, man. Definitely appreciate that. Crypto Moves in the building said, good job, brother. Appreciate you, Awthentik, for real one time in the building, man. Definitely appreciate you pulling up, Crypto Moves. You know what it is, man. So, look, man, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day, man. This was a good one. The vibes are a little bit somber today with the New York Giants losing to the Seattle Seahawks, 27-13. Got to go back to the drawing board. Steven says we need to give Houston one of those spankings you get and you cry with no tears. Oh, I know all about those, man. Haitian mother and father. Yeah, I was getting those, definitely. Shout out to Benny for pulling up late, man. Shout out to all y'all in the building. Let's end this show with some biceps in the chat. Make sure to catch us tomorrow. We're going to be doing an in-depth review of the NFC East, man. 3 victories across, man. The Eagles got that dub. Cowboys got that dub. Washington Commanders got that late dub, man, with some heroics by Taylor Heineke one time. And the Giants are the only team to lose in the NFC East, man. So we got some ground to catch up here going into next week, going into this bye, and then the following week against the Houston Texans, man. Salute to all of y'all for rocking with me, man. Y'all know what it is. Left side, strong side. Hopefully the New York Giants can tap into their strong side going into this bye week, man. So, man, we end every show here the exact same way. Keep raising that bar, y'all. Keep living those dreams, man. Keep spreading that word. The universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Shout out to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack one time. And that's going to do it for the Week 8 edition of the Giant Overreaction. Hopefully we can get back to smoking some pack here in 2 weeks, man. Y'all have a speedy couple of weeks here. Man, next week is going to be terrible on Awthentik and the Beard. I got to sit here and talk about all the other teams in the NFC East outside of mine. Hopefully, we can make a big trade so we get some news here. Maybe I'll take that time to put out some good pre-recorded content about what the New York Giants can do during this bye. But again, man, I appreciate all of y'all rocking with us, man. Make sure to tune in tomorrow, 7 p.m. I'll see y'all there, man. Y'all be good. Peace.